Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round of epic and exciting racing action in the SimRacing International hosted UKSimRacing Community Sunday GT3 Championship Season 18 as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC known as iRacing. That's right folks, we're back once again with everybody's favourite weekend GT3 racing series, and as the story of Season 18 of the UKSimRacing Sunday Showdown continues, where exactly are we today? We have made our way into the second half of the championship season. And we've made our way back to Belgium. We were here earlier in the season for the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. We've made our way back to everybody's second favourite Belgian circuit, that being Circuit Zolder. A circuit that is arguably very heavily overshadowed by its neighbour, and unfairly so, because at its core it's a 2.49 mile circuit, which many will find that after they've taken a single lap around here, you'll be left wanting more. With short straights, plenty of chicanes and sweeping bends join it all together. Over its 10 corner sequence, this is one of those circuits which feels incredibly frustrating when you first set out, and then you've got to try and conquer those high curves and carry as much speed as possible through the chicanes and through the sweepers, but when you get it right, oh goodness me, does it feel very satisfying. How what it means to our drivers, a qualifying lap that puts them on pole is going to be absolutely incredible, but then they need to do their utmost to make sure they don't make a single mistake in order not to fall back into the clutch of their rivals and fall out of their chances of winning the race. Mistakes are highly punishing around here, and it will be just as much a test of consistency as it will be for those who haven't qualified well, their ability to do battle under braking like no other, because this is one of those circuits where overtaking is going to prove highly challenging. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you all to this post-round broadcast from Circuit Side as you tune tonight as if it were live for round number 6 of the series. We'll catch up with all the racing action from Sunday the 10th of May 2026. We're bringing it to you as if it were live this Monday the 11th of May. Therefore it means we do not know who's going to come out on top in the qualifying session, which is getting underway currently. We've just seen the outcome of the practice session. We'll bring you up to speed with how everyone was getting on there in due course. We'll perhaps put a bit more of a focus on qualifying, understandably. And most importantly, we do not know the outcome of the race that is just around the corner. Therefore, it's going to be as close as possible to the raw live viewing experience you guys and girls tuning at home. And as always, if people are tuning in right now who may not know the outcome of the racing, well, spoilers may not be advised in the YouTube chat. In the content TV, if you have myself, my name is Paul Bush, and I'll be bringing you all your racing action as it unfolds the entirety of this season. And well, you can be catching this race, indeed every broadcasted around from the Sunday GT3 Championship in the UKSimRacing series via one and only location. That's on youtube.com and search for SimRacing International or SRI. And why not subscribe today so that way you can stay up to date with all the racing action from our weekly broadcasted series, where we GT3 Racing, GT, you name it, we've got it. And it's never been a better time to become part of the SimRacing International community, especially on Sundays as part of the GT3 series from UKSimRacing. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring you up to the speed with the story so far after 5 rounds of racing and what perhaps we can expect coming into round number 6 here at Circuit Zolder. So we firstly take a look back at our calendar. Of course, this dictates where we go over the course of the season. And last time out on the 3rd of May, we completed the first half of the season at the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit in the United Kingdom. Coincidentally, coinciding with GT World Challenge Europe's Sprint Cup Series, making its way to the circuit in real life that weekend, we got to see some absolutely brilliant racing action over an hour under sunny skies in the Garden of England, it's the county of Kent. But who exactly was coming away smelling of roses, many of you will be wondering? Well, let's start off with the Pro Class. And in the end, well, it was pole position converted into his second win of the season. At long last, Thomas Noakes has made that second win come. He's had to wrangle it, he's had to wrestle it to make it happen, but in the end, it finally landed. However, it didn't look as though it was going to go that way when Adam Watson joined him on the front row of the grid and was only 5 thousandths behind in qualifying and quickly leapt ahead into the lead through the opening couple of quarters. But the opening lap saw further drama for Watson as he got it wrong coming through Hawthorne's Bend, and as he came back on, he found himself in contact with Thomas Pugh, and suddenly the doorway was open up for Thomas Noakes to return to lead and run away with it. But he couldn't quite run away with it because there was one driver who definitely was making sure that he was sprinting whereas Noakes was jogging, and it was none other than what was a very fast and furious charge from Harvey Wheeler, who came all the way from 6th to finish 2nd and was right on the heels of Noakes all the way to the very end of the race, never dropping more than a second behind. In the interclass, well, nobody could have predicted Cy Anthony taking his first win of the season, and after qualifying 7th in class, the best part of what 7.5 tenths off a pole sitter Mikey Stewart, you would have thought for Cy Anthony it would have been one of those rounds where he gradually made his way up into a top 5 and perhaps stole away a podium. Well, he made some steady progress at the start of the race, moving into 3rd place by the end of lap number 3, but then he was relegated back to 4th as Luke Sherlock was able to find his way past just before the pit window. But given the fact that Cy Anthony opted to pit early, he went for the undercut strategy, he made the gamble, and the gamble worked out quite nicely, and initially. However, he did find himself in some traffic towards the very end of what was the pit window, and so Luke Sherlock was able to come back out ahead in third place. But he chased him down, fought him hard, and in the end was able to take home what was that third place for him. Hold up, did I just say third place? In fact, no, it was not third place, of course, because maybe you may remember at that point that whilst they were battling, there was a huge incident on lap 36 between leader Mikey Stewart and Hendrik Zilke, the fast charging Swiss driver, who was all over the back of them, both of them coming together in what was an incident quite reminiscent of the demise of Michael Schumacher at the Hungaroring, I want to say, all the way back in 2006, which was the site of Jenson Button's first Formula One win in his career, although I can't remember the driver who came into the back of Schumacher, or whether Schumacher went into the back of the driver, but it was one of those incidents that looked very similar to it between Zilke and Stewart, and suddenly that battle for third place in the pro class, in the interclass between Cy Anstey and none other than what was his rival there, of Luke Sherlock, suddenly became a battle for the win, and Cy Anstey took it past Luke Sherlock on lap 41, and that was how Cy Anstey took his first win of the season. Completely unexpected, but it just goes to show the unexpected can happen to anybody, and sometimes it can come way smell of the roses. Meanwhile, in the club class, well, it was a second win of the season. Back-to-back wins for Jordan Maymar, who took second place in qualifying in class. He was 2/10 off the pole sitter of Grant Miller and had a decent start, closely chasing Miller initially. However, what we did get to see is the two of them dropped Jordan Butler, who was languishing in third place and falling backwards, and an error then on lap number 8 for Grant Miller opened the doorway to Maymar, and after that he never needed to be asked twice to run away with the win and make sure he's made it back-to-back wins, and Jordan Maymar right now is looking to be the danger man in the club class. But will we see more repeat winners today? Could we see Maymar make it 3 on the bounce? Could we see Thomas Noakes make it back-to-back wins and his third as well? And will we see another name take victory in the interclass, or could we see what is a repeat winner? All that's more a bite to find out, because it is round number 6, and here we are at the Circuit Zolder Grand Prix circuit for a 1-hour race under what is relatively cloudy skies currently, but not a drop of rain in sight. And remember, after this round, we make our way to Japan once again for the Suzuka Grand Prix circuit. It will be the second of our 90-minute endurance race rounds, and it will be the conclusion of the standard round part of the season, after which in rounds 8, 9 and 10, we go into the Showdown format, where the final 3 rounds of the season are worth 50% more points, or 1.5 times the standard points pool, being at Magny-Cours, Road Atlanta, and Donington's Grand Prix circuit. But that's in the future. Let's stay in the present, and as we do stay in the present, or is it the past? Well, I'm going to call it the present, given the way we're treating this broadcast. Well, let's bring you up to speed with the championship standings after 5 rounds. We begin with the Pro Drivers' Championship, and here we can see Thomas Noakes leading the way with his second win finally on the board and with his third podium. It now does mean for him he's starting to carve open a bit of a gap. That gap stands at 44 points over Fotis Katechos, and if Noakes had what was a brilliant sequence at Brands Hatch, well, for Fotis Katechos, it was a nightmare day. Now in qualifying, he was completely off the pace, 13th in class in a Corvette that seemed to have more understeer and oversteer in it than he could handle, and to be fair, I mean that not to be rude about Fotis Katechos. He's normally able to get the best out of a car, even if it's not set up right, but his Corvette looked completely out of line compared to where he wanted it for Split Strat Esports, and it showed over the course of the race, when in the end he was unfortunately disqualified for the race due to instant points collected on lap 26. So first non-finish of the season for Katechos. Of course, that does mean that round number 5 becomes his drop score for the season, and he will not want to have that happen again, otherwise he'll be losing even more ground on Noakes. But Harvey Wheeler, now with 3 second place finishes to his name, well, he's definitely right now trying to break the pattern, where after every second place finish, he has a difficult round. And if he can make it another podium today, he could leapfrog his way into second place. He's only 6 points behind, but only 10 ahead of Kyle Roy. And Kyle Roy's day was definitely one of a bit of a middling performance at Brands Hatch, found himself just outside the top 5 at the very end of it, but the Axis Sim Sports with Simworks Shire continue to push forward. Max Wheeler sits in 5th place, so Verso Fast by Freewheeler Racing, and will 2 7th place finishes back-to-back, but he wants to get into that top 5 again if he can, given the fact that right now he really leads the rest of the field. The top 4 have broken away, and he's at the head of the fight for 5th, ahead of Thomas Pugh and Tim Probert. And well, what a driver it was for Probert. 7th place driver there now on 230 points, with his first podium of the season last time out, and in the end, looking smooth, consistent, and quick at Brands Hatch, and that worked out very nicely for the Send It racing driver. But we jumped over Thomas Pugh. He did not have a happy day at the office whatsoever. That 10th place finish in the end, and you could put a good amount of it down due to the open lap contact between himself and Adam Watson, where Pugh had run wide out of Hawthorns as Watson was trying to rejoin, and unfortunately the two drivers came on a collision course together. You couldn't have made it up, and I get the feeling they may have settled their differences outside of the race and had a quick chat about it and realised at the end of the day it was one of those unfortunate situations and one of those racing incidents, if you will. But then we see outside the top 7, Nathan Anstis at 210 points, 20 away for a potential trophy so far this season. The UKSimRacing Hamilton driver still trying to recreate his success from round number 4. Archie Williams sits in 9th place at 186 points, and Adam Watson, the Altitude 3M esports driver, was definitely a difficult day in the office last time out. Otter looking so set potentially for the pursuit of a win, but to be fair to him, the flip side of the coin was he came all the way from the back of the field to finish 5th in class. An incredible recovery drive at a circuit where overtaking was absolutely nightmarish in terms of being able to find moves, but to be fair, so many drivers did so well to battle around Brands Hatch's Grand Prix circuit, testament to all of our drivers. Casper Rotner, he sits the best part of 4 points behind it in the 11th place at Old Dudes in Cars, and behind the Dane, it's Matthew Croft at Axis Sports, who completes the championship standings down to 12th place of the pros. Then to the top 12 of the interclass we go, and here we can see Mikey Stewart with 3 wins to his name. He's still definitely the leader. However, 7th place last time out of that huge shunt between himself and Hendrik Zilker right towards the end of the race in the battle for the Inter win, and suddenly the championship looks a lot more open. Hayden Young, interestingly, he didn't have a perfect day at the office either. He qualified 5th, and he would have finished 5th if it were not for the incident between Stewart and Zilker. He was promoted 2 places right at the very end of the race, and he was definitely in one of those rounds whereby it was all about surviving. He did pick up damage in both stints, and that damage really held his Porsche 992 back, but he didn't give up, and to be fair, that determination and sheer will may be what's enabling him to get closer to Stewart, as he now does have a run of 4 podiums back-to-back. And Tom Quaddy for Phoenix Racing, we had a very difficult race as well. After a decent qualifying performance that put him 3rd on the intergrid, an involvement in a lap 1 instance saw him relegated to the back of the field, and that is where he finished, unfortunately, in the class with 8th there, although not right towards the back, to be fair, and indeed he made sure not to retire, so he picked up some key points, but not the points he wanted, and the Phoenix Racing Red Dry now on 294 points, and we're starting to lose a little bit of ground on the top 2. But it really was a theme in the interclass last about the top 3, none of them having the round they wanted, and Brandon Vincent Squibb missing the last round for Type 2 racing, falls to 224 points now in 4th place, with Jake Muttick gradually closing. Muttick for Phoenix Racing Blue was not on the grid last time out. We hope to see him back today. Jack Barker, meanwhile, the made for racing driver, picked up a solid 5th place finish in the end on the 2 with 212 points, and his Aston Martin V8 Vantage Evo, and will definitely have to battle his way forward after a qualifying session that was definitely middle of the pack, and that's where he found himself in terms of pace. Luke Sherlock, 7th place there. And that 2nd place, his first podium of the season, missing out versus Cy Anstey, but it was a close battle between himself and the UKSimRacing Hamilton driver, but the Darkwing Racing driver right now has got to take that confidence forward as he tries to charge his way on to the next round. Hendrik Zelker sits 8th, Old Dudes in Cars, ahead of Peter Holt, and both of them definitely have very contrasting fortunes, where Zilker was looking so good for a potential chance for his first win of the season, only for it to all end up into the back of Mikey Stewart's car right towards the very end of the race, and Peter Holt, by comparison, meanwhile, had a tough start to the race, being involved in an early incident, but he kept his head down on the Send It Racing driver and made some quick moves to move to 6th for 160 points. Then we do have 12 points behind him, Cy Anstey, who completes the top 10 for UKSimRacing Hamilton with that first win on the board, and while caught up with Cy after the race, and he said he was never going to let it go versus Luke Sherlock, because we know the thing about Cy and overtaking is, once he gets stuck into a fight with another driver, he doesn't give up until literally they both run out of tarmac, or he makes that place happen, and well, it was the latter, not the former, and the Welshman was absolutely flying in the county of Kent. Ashley Brooks, it's 4 points behind for Axis Sim Sports, but in turn, it's the best part of 18 ahead of Eduardo Royes, and we look forward to seeing the return of the Axis Sim Sports with AB Designs driver from Spain in the near future. Then to the club class we go. And here we can see it is currently Martin Kenyon who leads the way. And, well, leading right now, having seen his run of podiums ended. And, well, it's not the best of days for Martin Kenyon, because whilst he took 3rd place in qualifying, he was almost 4/10 of the pole time set by Grant Miller. Well, he started the race on the pit lane, meaning he had to fight his way through the field. He did well to finish 5th, to be fair, given the size of the club class. But at the same time as well, the reverse of the coin was true, in the fact that he missed out on a golden opportunity to extend his lead further. And so the lead has been slightly brought down, as Grant Miller taking that 2nd place finish for Phoenix Racing Reds down 332 points. Tom Wheeler, however, just missed out of the podium, but took 4th place, and after starting 8th to finish 4th, with the Aversa Rapid by Free Wheeler Racing driver, I'll be happy there. He's got away with a little bit of a difficult day. Jordan Maymart sits in 4th, back-to-back wins. He's the one that everyone will be watching in the club class, because if he makes it a 3rd in a row, the Simcast Racing Team UK driver, I can tell you one thing, he's absolutely flying in his BMW M4 Evo, and right now he's trying to make himself really shine high and trying to match the win record of Martin Kenyon for this season. If he can make it 3 in a row, then it really will be down to who can make it the 4th. Jordan Butler sits in 5th behind his fellow namesake, but the Spectra Racing driver right now on 254 points. We picked up his first podium last time out with a very solid drive, no doubt about it, but he's still got more work to do to make sure he breaks away from Stephen Wilkinson, who he's moved ahead of, but Wilkinson's still in the hunt for the top 3. The Simcast Racing Team UK driver on 248 points after a 10th place finish last time. And then do see Alexander Vinmark, a non-finish for the Norwegian driver. The Beta Frost driver going backwards, not forwards, and he'll be hoping to arrest the rot today, with Matthew Massey there in 8th place, and then David Young is a further 4 points behind. And, well, for the logistical nightmare racing driver driver from South Africa. It was another solid performance and another what was top 10 finish. Ryan Clark completes the top 10 now on 208 points. He's only the best part of 16 ahead of none other than what is the Simcast Racing UK driver of Day of Pilcher, and then we do have James Conley completing your top 12 there at 174 points. Then to the team standings we go, and as we do so, will Phoenix Racing Red right now lead the way. And well, they've moved from second to first, and whilst it wasn't the best of rounds for them, they did get the double points finish, particularly with Miller's second place in the club class, moving them back into the lead. And therefore it means that Axis is what with Simcoach, they slipped from first to second on 596 points, and was not the round they wanted. They did take 7 points, but they could have so many more for both Pugh and Stewart, and will they be hoping that that was just a blip on an otherwise quite unblemished season thus far. Aversa Rapid by Free Wheeler Racing, the team there in third place of 578 points. Well, they remain in third. They're closing the gap to the top two with solid scores for both drivers, but they have also got coming behind them Send It Racing, who are moving up in terms of the points, although they remain in fourth place, and you can see it's tightening once again towards the very top. However, from fourth to fifth, and that's from Send It Racing to MK Simsport, we do have a gap there to the tune of 66 points, and right now MK Simsport all the way from 10th to 5th they've gone as a result of Noakes' victory, and also the fourth place in the pro class for Anton Kilo, and they'll be hoping that this is a sign of momentum to come. Now they are, the best part there, 16 points there to Simcast Racing Team at UK, who have moved from 7th to 6th. They've had another good round, and will Maymar's second win in a row, really propelling them forward, but don't count out Stephen Wilkinson either, who's earned them some solid points in the background. Axis in Sports with Simworks. Conversely, they've gone from 5th to 7th. They've slipped back a little bit after a rough round, especially for Archie Williams and Carl Roy in, making sure to get some solid points on the board, but they are at risk of falling into the hands of Piztech Racing, who are also slipping down the order, falling from 6th to 8th. It wasn't around for them. Martin Kenyon bringing home some points, but Jonathan Slade not bringing home any points, and therefore right now they've got to make sure they get both drivers on the grid sooner rather than later, as otherwise they could be at risk of falling outside the top 10. Split Straight Esports, they remain in 9th, but they are losing ground to the top 8, and they're now only 4 points ahead of Spectre Racing, who complete the top 10. And then we do see in 11th place, although not on the screen, UKSimRacing Hamilton in their highest position of the season so far in 11th, and they are currently 22 points off the top 10, and they'll be looking to overhaul the gap to get into the top 10 if they can today. But just before we do go back to the circuit to see how qualifying is going, let's tell you a little bit about our host circuit. As of course, we are racing at Circuit Zolder's Grand Prix circuit, previously known as Circuit Talarman in reference to other local townships. But regardless of the name of this circuit, it's located in the municipality of Huisden-Zolder in the province of Limburg in the Flemish region of Belgium, and spanning the best part of 2.49 miles in length or 4.01 kilometres, depending on your preference of units. What never changes is the number of corners, 10 of them total, and we can see them all there on the circuit map provided by iRacing.com, and a huge thank you to iRacing, not just for the brilliant simulator, but the fantastic track maps contained within it. And as we can see, this circuit, it is a blend of sweepers for the first half a lap and chicanes in the second half lap, and also some very heavy braking zones and 1 or 2 hairpins. Add it all together, and this is going to feel like it's Brands Hatch, albeit with chicanes added to the mix and a couple of longer short straights. That's exactly what our drivers need to contend with, where big moves can be made, including at Ersterbend at turn number 1, the opening quarter, to see our drivers sweep the way for the left-hander before they make their way in towards Sternvotbock to turn number 2, and coming out of a very tight apex right-hander, they've been flat out through the corner of turn number 3, known as Canal Box, and into a Lucien Bianchi box at turn number 4. And he's sweeping a right-angled right-hander at turn number 4 there. Deceptive tight as apex, but you can go too wide in, but you can have to go wide and wide on the exit, and that'll be the end of the first half of lap as they make their way towards the Klein chicane at turn number 5, where it's raised curbs. Anybody who goes high into those sausage curves, we could see ended up on 2 wheels or potentially out on the grass, but get it right, they'll then power their way over the crest and down through Butterbend at turn number 6 to make their way in towards Talarman box at turn 7. Now this is a triple sequence. It's a right into left followed by a right-hander, and then it is followed by another right-hand sweeper to complete it. So in a way, you could say it's a quartet of quarters, but as the drivers make their way through the opening chicane at Talarman box, it will then be coming through, but it's a very tight right-hand exit and a much more open fourth quarter there. That right-hander that sees them go over rise and down in towards the hairpin. That's a bit of a mouthful to say, but we're going to give it a good go, and I'm sure those of you out there who are big fans of Belgian circuits will be able to correct me if I get this wrong, and that is none other than Boulder, the Harshbillbocht, as they make their way through the right-hander there, the hairpin at turn number 8, and then through Jochen Ringbock to turn number 9, dedicated of course to the home hero, and into another home hero named corner they'll go at Jackie Ixbox to turn number 10 to complete lap and do it all over again. That final chicane, because it's the Grand Prix layout, it is the slow version of it, and well, the fast version you don't want to race in a GT3 because there's a horrendous exit on the outside, and well, the low speeds through the chicane here today will definitely make sure our drivers keep it nice and safe. But that is going to be a lap of the circuit, ladies and gentlemen. Without further ado, let's make our way back to circuit side and see how they're all getting on in the final few minutes of qualifying. And you can see we've got quite a crowded circuit here today after the 37 drivers who made their way to Brands Hatch last time out. And what a brilliant day of racing we had there. Well, we do have 41 drivers in attendance today here at Circuit Zolder. And this circuit, no stranger to GT3 racing, and previously held in the nickname of the home of DTM, or Deutsche Torwagen Masters. Well, unfortunately, no longer is it the home of DTM. It was the home of DTM for the best part of a couple of decades. DTM has moved on from Circuit Zolder in recent years. This circuit also home to GT3 racing in what was the Blancpain GT Championship, now known under the SRA moniker of GT World Challenge Europe, and that was from 2014 to 2018. It hasn't raced at the circuit since then. So what GT3s do race at the circuit nowadays, we do have sometimes GT Cup events, although they're more at a national level in Belgium rather than international level. But what this circuit does host on an annual basis as an international series is the Euro NASCAR Championship, and that being the road racing NASCARs on the European continent. And it's quite coincidental that the circuit used for that as well is Brands Hatch as part of the American Speed Fest, but this is the venue for the season finale, typically, of Euro NASCAR. As Nathan Ansis makes his way around, we do look to Tim Probet as he powers his way in towards the Kleiner chicane. And this circuit definitely has been the scene of many a high and many a low over several years, but he has also played host to Formula 1 for a brief spell all the way back, if my memory serves me correctly, in the 1970s. I want to say, but then it was superseded by the Circuit Spa Francorchamps. But as we briefly lose our time tell, which does come back, that happens every so often, and don't panic about that, ladies and gentlemen, that's on our end and not on your end, that we are seeing refresh that data. It can happen every so often. Well, we do see a few drivers continue going around, including Tim Probet. And who else is heading around right there? Who's looking at the quickest of them all? Well, at the moment, it's Thomas Noakes. And on 1 minute 26.780, and that is the best part of 28 thousandths faster than Harvey Wheeler. And Wheeler, well, he's looking quick as always. And to be fair to the Averso, a fast driver, well, he's looking pretty rapid. And that way I've just covered off both team names, so I've got him wrong, as he roars his way up through the left into right. Or the Aston Martin V8 Vantage Evo driver yet to take a win this season. But the most important thing, he needs to break the pattern, which is for every time he finishes at the podium, the next round will be a disastrous one. So as he makes his way up through to line box chicane, well, he's looking quick enough right now to be on that front row. He is a tenth quicker than Anton Kelo, and the second member of the MK Sim Sport team. I want to make sure that he can perhaps lock out the front row alongside his teammate if possible. It'll be the first time they do it this season, and he has been operating in the shadows a little bit compared to Noakes. In fact, that Kalo hasn't quite had the headline performances, although that full place last round at Brands Hatch definitely did attract some headlines for a positive performance. Be hoping he'd be on the podium here today. With Adam Watson, well, Watson is 2.5 tenths behind the top three at the moment. And on the Altitude 3M Esports McLaren, we are expecting it to be one of those children cheese cars here today, because the upshot of the McLaren is it loves chicanes, it loves rapid-fire direction changes. However, one thing it doesn't love is raised curves. This car is quite sensitive given the way the body has been designed and the suspension is mounted, and the way this car is pitched forward very aggressively on towards the nose from a mid-engine rear-wheel drive car is one of those cars when you do hit a curve, it really does feel the rebound off the curve through the shocks. But as the 388 McLaren makes its way up through the turn 8 hairpin, right now Adam Watson, this is definitely going to be one of those rounds whereby it may be, and it is by a bit of damage limitation, that he may not be able to get towards the very front. But to be fair, qualifying is just a lap. It is not the entirety of the race day, and the points are all made and paid in the race itself. But what about in the interclass? Well, Cy Anthony, after what was his first win of the season at Brands Hatch, right now he's come out here absolutely flying. A 1 minute 27.227 is the provisional pole time in Inter, held by him at the moment. And he does have quite a bit of a gap to Ashley Brooks, who is in turn 2 tenths behind or about. He's in 11th place. The UKSimRacing Hamilton driver is pushing on, as Ashley Brooks, meanwhile, has got a bit more work to do for AB Designs with the SimSport team, next is SimSport outfit, as he makes his way up through left into right there through the Kleiner chicane, and he's just ahead of this man. Mikey Stewart across to the timeline. Does Stewart improve? He does not. So the Inter Championship leader stays in third place at least for now. He's 1.5 tenths off of 11th place, and he'll be happy with that to be inside the top three, particularly given the fact he has got a sizable gap of, well, it's not that big in reality, it's only 7/100ths approximately, but hundredths and thousandths make the difference here in qualifying, and he has got that gap to Hayden Young, the man who's currently second in the Inter Championship and still looking for his first win after what seems to be an unstoppable run of podiums. 4 on the bounce. Can he make it a 5th on the bounce today? Well, as he heads onwards, with Hendrik Zilka, Pito, and Trementine and Steve Hughes all grouping together, all within 3/10 of him in the qualifying order so far, over and in class. Well, meanwhile, we do come to the club class. Martin Kenyon, the Pistech Racing driver, after that difficult day at Brands Hatch, where he had to start from the pit lane, not due to a penalty, but due to, I do believe, a technical issue with the car. Well, the 1-on-1 Lamborghini driver, currently the fastest of everybody in club. Jordan Maymar, he's currently not in the car in the pit lane, but Maymar's currently second fastest. Looking to try and make it 3 wins on the bounce. However, he's going to need to find another 3 attempts to try and get within a pole position of Martin Kenyon. And then Grant Miller right now, one of the big belligerents of the club class. He's currently third fastest as he gets ready to tow to the pit lane. But several of our club drivers, I think, opted to come back into the pits. And we'll give one last roll of the dice with regards to qualifying. And that's one of the things as well. Much like Brands Hatch, given the nature of the circuit being a short circuit, but also a very tight circuit, finding clear track is going to be challenging. Now, to be fair, we don't have all 41 drivers out there at once, but understandably, even when you do have the best part of 20 or around about 28 drivers out there at the moment, you are expecting that you are going to find some traffic out there at some point. You do the mathematics, even if you have 30 cars out on circuit, 2.5 miles, let's say, divide that by 3, well, that's going to be approximately what will be 0.8, and then divide it by 10, and that way you get the actual proper factor out there. And what you'll see, you'll end up in a position whereby you do end up with only 0.08 miles of circuit available to you. How many meters is that? I hear many of you ask. That is going to translate into, I want to say, if my memory serves me correctly here, my numerical conversion is right, around about 150 meters of space from car to car, if you get it right. Goodness me, maths on a Monday morning, ladies and gents. But I can tell you one thing, I've definitely had not enough coffee to do all that mathematics. I've just come back from Anglesey Circuit the night before. But still, enough about me. Let's focus on what's going out there. And as our drivers head on out, well, we do look to Thomas Noakes as he goes on to a flying lap. And let's see what he can do this time around. He's making his way down towards turn number 1. Here he goes, and into that braking zone for Erster Bend. Late on the brakes there, 100 metres at front corner apex, down to third gear, now flat out as he powers his way over to left and in towards Canal Box at turn number 2. Onto the brakes, right his way through the right-hander, and now cut up towards Canal Box at turn number 3. As he comes through the sweep of right-hander, flat out here, he'll get ready for Lucy Bianchi Box at turn number 4. Onto the brakes, coming all the way through there, nice mid-apex point, runs a little bit wide, however, that's going to cost him some time, may invalidate the lap, but so he's going to carry on here as he now makes his way down towards the Clyde chicane. Onto the brakes he'll go, about 120 metres a quarter apex, as late as he dares, carried all the speed there, that's full commitment and then some. Now over the rise in towards Bitter Bend, as he does have a car staying to the outside, but they're going to come back onto the racing line. They pull off, onto the brakes he goes, into the Slalom Box chicane, right into left here, making sure to keep 2 wheels on the curbs to not invalidate the lap. And now go through the first of the 2 right-handers to complete Slalom Box, now for the sweeping right-hander, flat out this time. With low fuel in the car, over the rise he goes, and now down towards Boulder Bahashable Box at turn number 8. Onto the brakes at the 100 metre board, coming all the way down to the second gear, through the right, and now in towards Jochen Rid Box at turn 9, and go flat out through here, narrow line, but it's a flat out one in race trim, and getting ready now for turn number 10, into Jackie X Box, and as he does so, onto the brakes at 150 metres from the open at apex, down to second gear, mount that curve as much as possible to open up the right-hander and get on the power, full throttle as quick as you can, and towards line Noakes goes. What's it going to be this time as he heads towards the timeline? Is it going to be an improvement? And the answer is going to be, no it's not, because he validated the lap. We have that confirmation at turn number 4 on the exit, just going a bit too wide. And well, as he makes his way back towards turn number 2, which is Stern Box, as I get the name correct this time. Well, right now, Thomas Noakes pushing, and well, if that lap had been valid, it would have practically matched his previous best of a 26.78. So he's still finding time out there. And well, how about this? Adam Watson, second place, 5 thousandths behind. Coincidence? Well, that's exactly the margin he has picked to pole position last time out at Brands Hatch. And well, there was a big coincidence as well in the pro qualifying session at Brands Hatch, the fact that the front row pair of drivers of what was Noakes and Watson were separated by 5 thousandths, and then we did see on the second row the grid, Carl Wright and Thomas Pugh, they were separated by 5 thousandths, although they in turn were a sizable couple of tenths away from the front row in terms of their pace. It's the first time I've ever seen that, ladies and gents, where I've seen the front 2 rows in terms of the pairings on those rows separated by the same time gap as the row in front and therefore the row behind. But as Adam Watson makes his way on around right now, he won't be looking at statistics like that. There are always intriguing statistics out there, no doubt about it. As Harvey Wheeler, meanwhile, now falls to third. But when you are only 23 thousandths off of the man who's currently second on the grid, well, he'll be thinking to himself, there's more out there, but where can he find the time as Max Wheeler jumps up to 21st on a 27.871, that being overall. But Adam Watson goes purple, and that is going to be a 26.746. Well, I'll tell you one thing, he's definitely absolutely nailed that lap, 33 thousandths faster than Thomas Noakes, and Noakes right now will probably be wondering to himself, what do I need to do to beat him? Well, you're going to have to go a bit faster, but that's not easy, and indeed, you could say it flippantly like that. Everyone knows you've got to go a bit faster to be on pole position, but you're not the fastest driver out there. But right now, the MK Sim Sport driver throwing everything at this to see what he can do. But are there any surprises happening? Well, Sight Anti's in the pit lane. He's currently 5th fastest of everybody. And I don't think he's going to want to go back out again. And, well, meanwhile, Martin Kenyon's not going out, so I think he feels though he's got his job done. There's no point in going back out there anymore and just a wasted energy. Jack Barker, meanwhile, all the way down in 25th place. That's 10th in the interclass at the moment. Not where he wants to be, the made-for-racing Aston Martin driver. And we are expecting this Aston Martin to actually feel quite comfortable around here at Circuit Zolder. It's not the cornering car, although it is the cornering car of the front-engine rear-wheel drive drivetrain GT3s. But because of the fact this is one of those cars whereby, because it's so focused around its turbo system that's mounted to the Mercedes engine in the front, it means that you can actually get away with absolutely burying the throttle on a lot of corner exits. The only downside is, of course, because you do have the turbo lag, there's a very specific RPM band you want to be in this car, and it was towards the very upper end of the RPM band. That's where you want to be as much as possible. Otherwise, you do lose speed. The turbo's there to essentially supplement it, although, understandably, there's always going to be a bit of a lag compared to some of the more naturally aspirated engines, such as the Porsche 992s and the Ford Mustangs out there. We look forward to seeing what Barker can do as he heads towards the line. A little bit of a wobble there coming out of the final corner. As he heads across, well, no improvement this time, so stays where he is for now. But are there any other surprises? Jake Muttett, who's back? Well, right now, the Felix Racing Blue driver is definitely going to be feeling a case of the Blues. 13th in the interclass at the moment, 30th overall. Not looking too positive, and Harry Steven's not too far behind him, only a 10th for drift. There's one driver who has not taken part in qualifying, that is David Young, and I do believe there's a technical issue for the South African team's car, so he's been doing it for either driver right now, not make his way out there. In terms of penalties we do have here today, we only have one penalty, and it is a carryover penalty, and that is for Jason Brennan, who I have not seen here on the attendance sheet at the moment, so Brennan might be missing this round, and it would be at the second of his drive-through penalties, of which he has served one already. He picked them both up from round 3. He served one at Brands Hatch in round number 5, and he is expected to serve the other one in his next round attended, and unfortunately, due to some incidents at Brands Hatch, he has also added to his tally now a qualifying ban, which he has to serve separately from the drive-through penalty. He cannot serve them all in one go. It's not a case that you can get a 2-for-1 special in terms of penalties, so it's unfortunate for Jason Brennan, but he's not on the grid today. We do hope to see him back at what will be at the Suzuka Grand Prix circuit in a week's time. But a minute left to go in qualifying right now, and all the drivers go towards the very end here, pushing as hard as they can. And David Pilcher, of course, potentially one of his best qualifying points of the season so far with a 7th place in club. But meanwhile, Thomas Noakes cross line. He has gone purple in what's the opening sector, and also going purple in the middle sector, but his final sector letting him down. So Noakes right now is definitely hustling out there, although you're not looking at him, you're looking at David Pilcher and the Simcaster of Racing UK BMW. I do love the way they come into that chicane. That camera shot there makes it look like they're going in slow-mo, when in fact they are going through that chicane at around about 55 to 60 miles an hour between the two apexes, but just gives you a real appreciation of the sideways glance of the car as he does come down in towards turn number 8. Got a bit of company behind him. That's the Aston Martin there. That is following of none other. It's not Jack Barker's car, it's Steve Hobbs. And Hobbs backs off 9. He's run out of time in qualifying. So, ladies and gentlemen, it does mean now for all the drivers, the clock strikes 0. David Pilcher comes into the pit lane and, well, carries just the right amount of speed there. The pit lane entry being on the racing line in towards the final corner. And now let's see who can improve right at the end of the session. As Fotis Katechos currently stick forward. It snaps loose on him coming out to the final corner. Into the barrier he goes, and Katechos gets it wrong. And he's going to need to toe that to pit lane quite quickly. Does so immediately there so as not to impede any drivers who are on an improving lap. Speaking of which, is Adam Watson going even faster here. He has had a personal best in the opening sector, and his final sector is looking promising at the moment. As he comes out of the final corner here, what's Watson going to do? Can he raise the bar for that pole time? Noakes in the pit lane, so he doesn't need to worry about Noakes. He comes across line. It's a 26.424. That's 2 tenths faster than his previous best. And Adam Watson separates himself from the field now by 3.5 tenths over Thomas Noakes. What a lap. Harvey Wheeler still trying to push on it. Can he steal away a spot on the front row from Noakes? Adam Watson really making a statement. We'll have to see. Tom Cordy has improved off camera. He's moved up to 18th. Casper Rotten has moved up to 14th. The pro driver for Old Doozy Cars, leaving it very late in the day to get a good lap together. We've got a couple more drivers out there, including Oliver Sphinxet. The Beta driver back once again today. Very happy to see him out there in the light blue and golden livery machine, the 188. And as he roars his way onwards right now, what can the Nordic driver do? We'll have to wait and see, as we have seen a couple of drivers coming to the pit lane. In fact, I believe they're all coming in. Well, that is going to be qualified complete, ladies and gentlemen. So Adam Watson takes pole position overall and in pro by 3.5 tenths over Thomas Noakes there with a staggering 26.424. The Harvey Wheeler and Anton Kilo will be on row number 2. Row 3, you are going to see your pole sitter in the class of Cy Anthony, and he has been able to out-qualify the rest of the field there by quite the staggering part of 2 tenths, with Ashley Brooks there 12th ahead of Hayden Young. Albeit they'll be together there, 2nd and 3rd in the class, with Mikey Stewart and Andrew Bentine not too far behind, but they will be split by pros and club drivers. Speaking of club drivers, Martin Kenya will be starting 10th today. He'll be your club pole sitter, back on top once again, the championship leader. And we see Jordan Maymar starting 17th, second of the club drivers, but he's got a sizable gap there, the best part of 8 places to Grant Miller, who'll be 3rd in class, and he's only just ahead of Ryan Clark and also Matthew Massey. But a great qualifying session. And we see some firm favourites come back to the fray, but also a couple of surprises out there. But I suspect qualifying just going to be one set of stories, and the race is going to have plenty more stories of its own. But now, of course, we do make our way into our warm-up period. We do have now 5 minutes for our drivers just to get themselves comfortably set before we do go racing. And that does give them all an opportunity to go out there if they feel the need to do so. As we do see Hayden Young camouflaged behind what is the solar panels there, although not for too long, as our camera does pick him up as he makes his way onwards. And there is the Send It Racing driver going back out onto the circuit. And there's 5-minute warm-up period, of course, there to give our drivers an opportunity to have a bit of a breather. And we do recommend, if you are sat there right now thinking to yourself that you might need to go get a bit of liquid refreshment, alternatively top up on a snack, if you do enjoy popcorn, alternatively potato chips, crisps, or alternatively a choice of your own, well, of course, this is the great opportunity to go get that top up. Or if you just need a bit of a bathroom break, like many of our drivers probably need to as well, we'll go do it now, because you've got 4 minutes, and then we do head to the grid. And after that formation app, we will be going green for 60 minutes of racing action here at Circuit Zolder, and I'm going to do my own words here and make sure I take a big sip of water. Well, that's been water consumed there, and I don't think I'll get the opportunity to take another sip during the race, given how electrifying the action will be, as it always is, to be fair. And the UKSimRacing Sunday GT3 Championship is hosted by SimRacing International. And well, it's crazy to think we are in our 18th season this series. And this series has been running for the best part, I want to say, 5 years. And well, it really has gone from strength to strength. And whilst there are plenty of fresh faces to the series out there, or relatively new faces such as Steve Hobbs, you've still got absolute stalwarts and veterans racing this series, including like Cy Anthony and, well, the UKSR Hamilton driver. He's been there since day one, and it's absolutely brilliant to think that he really has become a staple of this series. Also administrator for it. He's had some incredible battles over the years. I still remember his absolutely brilliant battle in the season finale for the crown in the top class. At that time, I do believe known as the elite class, or what was actually, in fact, the platinum class back then, between himself and Sam Congreve at Road Atlanta. It was a 1.5-hour race that all came down to, was it right to do a 2-stop or a 3-stop? And in the end, well, I won't spoil that one for you, ladies and gentlemen, because you have to go back through the archives for it. I want to say it was season 9, if my memory serves me correctly, so that would have been 2.5 years ago. But it was one of those battles for the championship crown, and in it all came down to a lap's worth of fuel. But which way did it go? Well, you'll have to take a look back at that. But as Science makes his way around, well, of course, he's seen it all over the years. And a 227 driver, and he'll be absolutely itching to see whether he can make it back-to-back wins today. As will his teammate for UKSimRacing, Hamilton Nathan Anstis. Of course, he was the king in the wet at Fuji, but what can he do here in dry conditions? Can he find a way to make his way back onto the podium? Can he find a way to the top 5? Because Brands definitely did not reward him whatsoever, and well, a bit of a frustrating one at that. We know he is a very smart strategic driver. He's got strategy now down. He hasn't quite got the pace or so his faster pro peers in the dry, but in the wet is where he excels. So if it doesn't work out today, well, the good news coming his way is that we do have the question mark of weather conditions for round number 7 at Suzuka. We don't know what the weather's going to be. It'll be revealed quite late in the day. Nathan Anstis there makes his way down pit lane. That was a drive-through. Not for a penalty, I suspect, but more so just to practice his pit entry and also his pit exit. So always using that time to his advantage. And funny enough, a lot of drivers do use this warm-up period to practice their pit entries, because they spend hours upon hours during the week practicing the circuit. And they rarely ever spend time practicing the pit lane entry and exit, and understand because they want to get all the lap time together. Until you realise when you do have a pit stop on the cards, you kind of need to know how to get into the pit lane and out it as quickly as humanly possible. As Tom Cordy, meanwhile, making his way on around there. As he does so, well, our overlay seems to have stopped working there. We do apologise. This seems to happen every so often, but it's a good thing it's happened before we go racing, and we are going to see whether we just fix that. I suspect that with Nathan Dansis making his way down the pit lane, it may have just caused a bit of a glitch to our timing software. We're not blaming Nathan for that, of course. I think it's just happened as a result of that for some unknown reason, but these things do happen every so often. But as we do see Tom Cordy make his way on through, well, not too far away from going. Green flag racing, ladies and gentlemen. 30 seconds from now, we will be making our way into what will be the gridding procedure, and then we will be seeing all tries make the way out there. We'll be looking to go for gold. They'll be looking to go for victory in their respective classes. This warm-up session gradually coming to a close, and we have fixed the overlay issue there. We do apologise for that. And Daniel Pace makes his way down right now, and the old dudes in cars, vintage driver, all set and looking to send himself off for what will be a chance at victory. We'll have to see whether it comes together or not, because, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to make our way to the grid for a one and only race day here in round number 6 of the UKSimRacing Sunday GT3 Championship Season 18, the Sunday Showdown. We're here at Circuit Zolder, and it is time for 1 hour of racing in Belgium. And so, as our drivers make the way to the grid, this is how they'll all line up for round number 6 of the season. And it's going to be Adam Watson, who takes pole position by a staggering 3.5 tenths at altitude from Esports, head of Thomas Noakes at UKSimRacing. Behind them, on the second row of the grid, missing out on the front row by the best part of only 300ths, Harvey Wheeler for Verso Rapid by Free Wheeler Racing. Anton Kalo, with one of his best qualifying points of the season, the Finnish driver starts in 4th for UKSimRacing, although I am hearing there was a technical issue with the car down the pit lane during the warm-up session, and therefore they're trying to get the car out onto the circuit right now, but it will be a pit lane start for Anton Kilo. He will not be on the grid. So Antti starts in 5th place for UKSimRacing Hamilton as Interpol sitter, and the Welshman will be joined on the 3rd row grid by Fotis Katechos for Split Strat Esports. Tim Probert starts 7th for Send It Racing ahead of Kyle Roy for Axis Sports with SimWorks, and then we do see completed the top 10. Steve Hobbs for Sim Coach, and he'll be in the company of Martin Kenyon, the club pole sitter. Well done to Martin for that club pole position for Piztech Racing. And then behind them on row at number 6, it's going to be Justin Noel with his best qualifying performance of the season so far. Good on Justin for that one. That's an impressive lap from him, and he will be just ahead of Ashley Brooks, who starts in 12th place at Axis Sport Bandits. From the 2nd place into driver, it'll then be the 3rd place into driver directly behind of Hayden Young for Send It Racing, and Casper Brotner starts 14th there, the Dane for Old Dudes in Cars Vintage. Then let's go to Mikey Stewart, starting 15th for Axis Sports with Sim Coach, ahead of Andrew Team for Axis Sports Smurfs, and then we do have SimCars from Racing UK, 2nd place Club Starter, in 17th place Jordan Maymar ahead of Tom Cordy for Phoenix Racing Red. And for Cordy, that's not where he wanted to qualify today. I think he wanted to be towards the front of the Interclass, but it's not come together in his Mercedes. He's got a lot of work to do there for 18th place. Nathan Ansis, conversely, this circuit seems to be favouring a little bit more. He starts in 19th for UKSimRacing Hamilton, and the 396 driver was only 1,000 faster than Peter Holt in the for Send It Racing Bulls. We then do see behind them, starting in at 21st place is going to be Hendrik Zilka for Old Dudes in Cars at Amnesia, head of Max Wheeler for Verso Fast by Free Wheeler Racing. He's definitely had a bit of a qualifying session as Max, and therefore he's got to do over the race distance. Steve Hughes for UKSimRacing Norris starts ahead of Grant Miller, 3rd of your club drivers there for Phoenix Racing Red. And then we do have Jack Barker for Made for Racing starting 25th, head of Jake Muttett for Phoenix Racing Blue. Then we're going to have Ryan Clark starting 27th place there for Spectre Racing, just ahead of his teammate of Matthew Massey. And it's Luke Sherlock for Darkwing Racing. A very different run today in qualifying, 12th place at Inter, but never count him out. He's definitely a very consistent driver who can stay out of trouble. John Butler completes the top 30 for Spectre Racing Feet SimWorks. There we do see outside the top 30. 31st, it's going to be Daniel Pace for Old Dudes and Cars Vintage, ahead of Harry Sven for Spectre Racing Feet Murby. Then we'll have David Pilcher for Simcast Racing UK ahead of Alexander Vingmark for Beta Frost, with Tom Wheeler for Verso Rapid by Free Wheeler Racing. Not having a good qualifying session there, starting all the way towards the back of the club class. But ahead of UKSimRacing Norris is James Conley. Then we will have Stephen Wilkinson starting 37th for Simcast Racing UK ahead of Ryan Littlemile for Verso Fast by Free Wheeler Racing. Oliver iRacing. Set starts in 39th for Beta Frost, ahead of Joshua Harley for Spectre Racing Feet Murby. And not setting a lap time. Will we get to see him race? I do believe we will. David Young. He'll be starting for the very back of the field at 41st place there in the 129 Logistical Nightmare Racing BMW. But I'm hearing that they are moving Anton Keller's car to the end of the pit lane currently, so we will get him out there just in the nick of time. As the field makes its way around there, and indeed the trees absolutely staggering to see, ladies and gentlemen. Well, our field almost now ready to go racing as they make the way on around through turn number 8 in towards 9. We come down to the closer cameras, and as we do, they all gradually come forward here, and we're absolutely spellbinding to see so many GT3s out there. Grand total of 40 of them who will start this race on the road, 1 from the pit lane, and will be plenty of excitement, no doubt about it. As Anton Kilo's car has made it to the pit lane exit, I can tell you that, or the limiter line for the pit lane exit, so he'll be good to go. We're good to go, ladies and gentlemen, and it's over to Adam Watson to take us away for 60 minutes of racing action in round number 6 of the championship. And there he goes, lights out, away we go. Time starts to fly by immediately as they roar the way away down towards turn of 1. And as they do, Adam Watson absolutely nailing the start. Harvey Wheeler, meanwhile, going on the attack here as they make the way in towards the opening bed. Further back sight, Anti's also had a good start there. Car round, there's Harvey Wheeler. Wheeler's lost the rear of the car, he catches it in time. Does it roll back to the road? It does not quite. Car's gone loose. That's going to be 2 Mercedes coming together. I believe that's the Send It Balls car of Peter Holt going sideways. And unfortunately being knocked to the side as we immediately do have a yellow flag. So yellow flag is out. It does mean they will race for a brief moment, and then they'll come to a halt here. They'll all have to essentially get themselves queued up together, and there won't be too much more battling. So I think they'll battle to the end of this lap, or will they be allowed to? No, in fact, I think the whole field does calm them down. So I had a big instant there going towards turn of 1, and immediately a automated safety car has been called, and right now all drivers push it on around. But I don't think they will be allowed to battle, essentially. I think they will be required now to hold their positions as much as humanly possible. We'll see what happens here, as we do see a bit of side-by-side action here between Mikey Stewart and Tom Cordy, and I think Max Wheeler as well. I think they're just trying to sort all their positions out as they fight their way around each other, but definitely that yellow flag being called immediately. As Jake Muttett, meanwhile, and be having that Steve Hughes make his way around, and I suspect what everyone's trying to do at the moment is try to figure out essentially where they were when the yellow flag was called, which is going to be a bit challenging. And well, I think everyone's trying to catch up to that safety car as quickly as they can. So no places will be made, ladies and gentlemen, at this point. It essentially will not quite restart the race, but it will reset any progress here, and we will be behind the safety car for at least 2 laps. This lap does not count as they now come across the timeline, and we do have a safety car, I believe, waiting in the run towards turn number 2, and Adam Watson will very quickly catch up to the automated safety car. But the Altitude Freedom Esports driver, after an absolutely brilliant start, well, it's all now gone a little bit backwards for him as he follows it around. In fact, as we do have the yellow flag, where is the safety car? Or are we actually racing? And if so, well, I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, this is a little bit confusing here, because I would have thought that somebody would have caught up to the safety car right now. It looks like the whole field keep it nice and cool. And we are just trying to understand what exactly has happened. We've got Jordan Button and Hayden Young both into the pit lane. And I think everyone's still trying to catch up to the safety car. And there is Adam Watson. In fact, we have not got a safety car out there at all. So I don't know why yellow flag's been called, ladies and gents, but your guess is as good as mine. And I think we are, in fact, racing at the moment. So Thomas Noakes, therefore, chasing after Fotis Katechos still. And these drivers continue to push each other around as much as humanly possible. But a big instant there. And, well, as all the fighting continues, we're just going to reload our overlay if we can, and just try and find out what exactly has happened. It does look as though, well, we are still racing at the moment. So, as the drivers make their way on around the circuit even more, all up to speed at the moment. We're having a few drivers into the pit lane. Over the 6th set, also Jordan Butler, and also Peter Holt there. So, some drivers will need to get to repair what's done to the car, as it's going to be Harvey Wheeler looking up the inside of Ryan Clark. They go down to that braking zone here, 2 wide they go, and he's going to make that move straight away. Just in front, we'll see Jordan Maymar there battling with Andrew Bettine, and Nathan Anstis right behind there. So, these drivers come through the corners. Well, just heard say go a really big shunt, and that's Steve Hobbs who's had it go wrong coming out the final corner. Not quite sure what's happened to Steve. I tell you one thing, it has gone very, very wrong. And well, I definitely think we are not behind a safety car at all, ladies and gents. So I think a yellow flag has been called erroneously there with regards to the information we are being fed from circuit side. And well, as a result, disregard that yellow flag entirely as they make the way around. It's definitely not accurate whatsoever. We are racing. We do apologise for the confusion here. We're not sure what's happened, but we can tell you that we are racing right now, and everyone is pushing on as much as humanly possible, as our overlay is still keeping that yellow flag out there. But still, that's happened, and well, it's gone very wrong for Peter Holt. Meanwhile, as he's had things go very sideways. But continues to look around. Adam Watson trying to make a bit of a gap here. Fotis Katechos had an absolute lightning start as he continues to make his way onwards, and Thomas Noakes at the side, Anthony to go behind. Now Anthony here continue to follow. You're into leader right now, who has got Ashley Brooks not too far behind him, to be fair. Brooks had a decent start. He's currently second into class and got 7th overall. And as he comes down towards any turn 8 hairpin, still trying to push on as much as humanly possible. And well, a bit further back, John Harley, we do see here, who fell all the way to the back of the field. The Spectre Racing Feet Derby driver, trying to make up some of the lost time and ground whenever he can. Chasing after was David Young. And well, unfortunately, we do have Peter Holt now coming out the pit lane, albeit a lap down at this point. So Peter went wrong right at the start. We'll have to get a replay of what exactly happened there in due course. But fighting just in front there, that's going to be 2 wide retreat drives. Stephen Wilkinson side by side here versus Ryan Littlemore. Now will Littlemore go for the return here under break the wheel, and the three-wheeler racing driver for the Averso team hits the curb too high, and he's going to send Wilkinson very sideways, and then he'll take the place, but Stephen Wilkinson won't be too pleased about that whatsoever, as David Young now tucks in behind and will just simply takes the place off of what will be Steve Wilkinson there, and Ryan Littlemore making that ground as Anton Kayla on the inside. Now remember, Kayla had to start for the pit lane due to a technical issue with the car, as we do see a car running wide there. That is going to be the Mercedes of not John Harley there. That's a Mercedes that is, I believe, going a lap down. That's Peter Holt there, who is being put a lap down behind all the drivers around him. But meanwhile, whilst all that's going on, Ryan Clark battling with Luke Sherlock still. And that's going to be side by side here. Ryan Clark on the inside, and he'll cover that off and move it to 24th place overall. So smooth move there by Ryan Clark. Another place gained. Now, we do apologise for the continuation of a period of yellow flag at the top of your screen, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, that is outside our control. We're not quite sure what's happened there. But it's also true, unfortunately, it's actually meaning that all the overtakes that are being made right now are not being registered on our end here for the purposes of the broadcast. So, we'll keep up to speed with the overtakes we can see, but we might be quite limited in what we're actually going to be able to get replays of today, because we're not getting any feed to say who's overtaken who. We're keeping an eye out for every moment, so we do apologise for this. This doesn't normally happen. But as we do our best to labour on, we'll see Hughes meanwhile chasing after Grant Miller. Hendrik Zilker right up the road now. You can see the old Duty Cars Mercedes drive briefly go for the camera shot, and Grant Miller still there at least for now, trying to push on and chase down Jordan Baymar as much as possible, as Hughes and Wheeler queue up behind. That being Harvey Wheeler there, who's had a dismal start to today, dropping all the way down towards the very front of the field, all the way down to 20th place. Now, can we get a replay of what happened to Harvey Wheeler at the start? I want to say yes, we can, and let's see if we can find out what exactly did it go wrong for Harvey Wheeler. And well, to do that, we're going to take a look back at the very race start, but not before he makes a move here versus Steve Hughes, gains another place, and the Averso rapid by three-wheeler racing driver up another position now, up into 19th place. And as he does so, coming down towards the chicane, well, we can see there the pattern now calms down for a brief moment, and we can get a replay of some of the big moments in this race that did get underway. So this is as we went green flag racing. Look into the blimp camera for a brief moment. In fact, we might be hidden by the tree line there, so we're not going to do that. Instead, what we're going to do is focus on the Harvey Wheeler. Of course, the man who started from what was third place in the end, made his way in towards turn number 1, and as he did so, well, on that very tight line there, took the curb, and the rear of the car started to let go early, so Anthony did very well to react there. So did the McLaren of none other than Tim Probert, who took evasive action. But whilst it went wrong for Harvey Wheeler, and there was free wide there for a brief moment, that was actually a daring move being made there by the McLaren of Ashley Brooks. Couldn't quite pull it off. He almost parted the seas there between Probert and Kenyon, and also none other what was Casper Brodner getting through in the end, and Martin Kenyon backing out. They're not wanting to fight, but what a brilliant move there, or an attempt from Ashley Brooks, no doubt about it. This is what the race start looks like from Martin Kenyon's perspective when we did go green flag racing. And we went quite quickly, and the start line, of course, of Circuit Zolder being much earlier than most circuits here for the green flag line. And coming down towards turn number 1, we can see there, actually look to the rear of the picture, looking up the inside already, going into the corner, finding himself on a free wide. At this point, Martin Kenyon just staying on the outside here. And well, there goes Harvey Wheeler, so being on the outside has its benefit. And Kenyon, in the end, making his way all the way to the inside into Stern box at turn number 2, but such a tight line, we're not been able to get the traction down without risking sending the car around the rear end, particularly mounting that curb, and that's why he was swarmed in the end. But I think Kenyon playing the game of safety first. But whilst it worked out very nicely for him, it went very wrong for Peter Holt. And this was the race from Peter Holt's perspective, an exterior camera, looking for a move there on what was the Phoenix Racing red machine early on, tapped side by side, and by looks of things, the rear of the car let go, got it stopped, but unfortunately not in time there for a driver to be able to react to it, and it did seem as though that was a side-to-side contact there, and I believe that was Jordan Butler going into the side of his car, unfortunately. So Butler coming through the corner and not having enough time to react to Peter Holt's car that was there. Not blaming Peter Holt, to be fair, nor blaming Butler, just one of those unfortunate circumstances. But as we did see Anton Keeler leave the pit lane, this happened to Oliver Sigset on the open lap. This was at the very end of it, hopping his way through the chicane, and as he did so, the rear of the car let go. Brilliant reactions there from David Young and Anton Keeler to react, and we also had a round in front of them. That was, I believe, the car of James Conley go for a spin. So Conley had got around, and so had Oliver Sigset, although we can't see what exactly happened to Conley. We did have this for Steve Hobbs on lap number 2. This was at the very same chicane. This was the big crunch noise you heard at the time. What exactly happened to Hobbs? And we came out the corner, rear let go. Goodness me, straight into the barrier there. And for Steve Hobbs, his race was in arrears. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's back to your live racing we go. And as we do come back, we're taking a look at some of the big moments from the start of this race. We still do have a yellow flag out there for some reason, ladies and gents, but I'm seriously not sure why. But still, we will push on as much as possible. And unfortunately, it will restrict us in being able to see potential moves being made. Because unfortunately, when the yellow flag comes out, our broadcast overlay software neutralises any theoretical overtakes that have been made by drivers or overtakes that have been made and says those are not registered. So we'll do our best now. We're going to be eagle-eyed. This is going all the way back to essentially the early days of post-round broadcast. We're not going to be able to get a replay of any overtakes. We're just going to catch them all as best as we can. I really should have had that coffee this morning. But still, as we do see Steve Hughes chasing after Grant Miller, Muttett and Barker still behind. And Jack Barker, to be fair, he's going one place since the start of this race, but he's now on the back of it all. But as we do see a move being made by Tim Probert up the inside of Thomas Noakes. And Probert up into third place in Pro now. And more solid move being made from there. But Noakes immediately comes back and says, no, you don't. And I think right now Tim's going to enjoy himself as Cy Ansley has made his way into third place in the overall standings. The interclass leader just holding away. But Probert will take that place of an Oaks. Noakes couldn't quite get it back off of him in the end. But a bit of grass being kicked up by somebody up the road. As meanwhile, Kyle Roy tries to get his nose in versus Harvey Wheeler. And going side by side through the corner here. Right now, Darcy so Kyle Roy not able to make that move. And Wheeler in the end just staying ahead for now. Andrew Montine in front. Weasing in to dry ahead of these two pro drivers. And therefore the pros right now wanted to do battle. Although I suspect if Wheeler could try and put himself ahead of Montine, he'd be a little bit safer there from Kyle Roy, who after was an okay qualifying performance. He's had a bit of a difficult start to his race. Is now trying to make up for lost ground. But Harvey Wheeler, to be fair, he was the bigger loser at the start with that big spin from second place in the running order when he went around at turn number 1, and therefore he's one who really has got to do now a circuit that's not going to be too forthcoming. Further back, David Young still battling with Ryan Littlemore, with Stephen Wilkinson in the rear of the pitch down his Porsche 9 and 2 for Simcast Racing. As we can see, David Young here still chasing, but a good run there versus Ryan Littlemore. He's going to look around the outside to the inside to Talam and Botvai, but will he be able to get the move done? And the answer is going to be he's going to try it, but in the end, Littlemore outbeats him on the brakes there. The heavy Ford Mustang able to stop in time, and David Young off racing line. That's not going to work out. He will just stay there, at least for now as they plough the way up the hill. But as Ashley Brooks fighting with Justin Noel goes up the inside there of the American driver, and credit where it's due to Justin, he's had a really good start to his race, moving up from 9th to 5th in the pro category and all the way up from 11th to 7th. Well, Brooks has moved from 12th to 6th overall, but not gained any into places. He's still second in class, but both of these drivers had standout days so far, and well, they could both be on for what they be their best performance of the season, overall and in class. Let's wait and see how it all adds up at the end of the day, as the Access Sport Bandits driver has definitely had one of those seasons so far, whereby he'll feel more like Pirate rather than racing driver in the way he's had to try and steal some points back from drivers over the course of the season. But to be fair, that's why the first 7 rounds are standard points, then we do have the showdown rounds, which can really make or break a season. Whether it's been a strong start to the season or not, you've got it all to play for right at the very end. The first 7 rounds really just acts as your foundation. But meanwhile, laying down the foundations here is Adam Watson, as the L23M Esports driver, roaring his way away right now. And well, his speed absolutely staggering. He is currently 6 seconds clear almost of Fotis Katechos. And well, behind that is going to be an Aston Martin that is a lap down in the form of none other than Steve Hobbs. But here's Fotis Katechos. And well, after what was a decent qualifying session, he's found his way into second place overall in Pro. And right now he's definitely going for the mentality of go, go, go. The Split Track Esports Corvette. Well, they didn't know what was wrong with it at Brands Hatch, but whatever was wrong with it, they've dialed it out here today. Well, they'll need to dial out him going a bit wide there at turn number 1, because that'll be an off track. You won't want to keep picking those up, otherwise it could be a drive-through penalty before this race is done. But coming through, turn 2 in towards 3. Fotis Katechos right now definitely looking very strong here as he roars his way on around. And as he does so, well, keeping his mind to it as much as he possibly can and looking absolutely set. But as we look a bit further back, just Noel chasing after Ashley Brooks still, but not quite able to stay with him. So Anti goes to the bottom of the camera, and there you can see Brooks and Anti, the gap is 5 seconds. That's what is depicted. But a little bit further back, we do have a long queue of cars here, as we do jump on board the dashboard of Nathan Anstis. He's currently 14th place, 8th for the pros, but for him, that is a whole pack of club and Inter drivers in front for the most part. There is one pro in amongst them all, Max Wheeler, although you can't really discern him at this distance. Nathan Anstis would like to get through this group as quickly as he can. Bang his way through right into left and through the double right here at Slam and Bot Bend. And right now, for the 396 driver, looking much more impressive in race trim than qualifying trim. The opponent's going to be, he's got to try and make overtakes. That's not going to be easy. Jordan Maymar still holding on to that second place in club, which is where he started. The top 3 of the club class have not changed their class positions. They have changed their overall positions or have made a bit of ground. As this here close, does he think about a move? He's going to look to the inside. It goes a win versus Jordan Maymar. And well, that's going to be a classic move in towards Jackie Ipok chicane. Is it going to work out? Inside to outside. And Nathan Anstis gets the power down. And in the end, the BMW, whilst it has got the acceleration, something tells me that Jordan Maymar may have decided not to fight that too hard. Recognise at the end of the day, he'd be fighting for overall position, not class. And therefore, he won't be gaining anything in reality. Meanwhile, a bit of Spectra on Spectra racing here as we're going to see the Feet Murby driver of the 207 Harry Svan making a move on John Harley. Well, he's going to try to. Harley missing his front bumper, of course. 2 wide they go through the corner for 11th place in the interclass. And the 207 and the 239 side by side all the way through. And there you can see you can go 2 wide through Jochen Ringbocht. However, understandably, it's not as easy as going 1 wide as Harry Svan does get the upper hand at the end. Has to really put the brakes on there. That was a lovely photo opportunity if you had any circuit side photographers to see the carbon ceramic brake disc glowing red hot both Mercedes as they battled under braking. But Harry Severn now moves into 11th in the interclass. His next target is going to be Stephen Wilkinson, who'll be a club driver, but that'll be for 30th overall. But as he goes chasing after him, well, meanwhile, we do look to Adam Watson, and right now the actual 3 esports driver still pushing on very happily here. Gap up to 6 seconds now versus Katechos, but meanwhile, Tim Probert and Thomas Noakes. Well, I get the fear right now Thomas Noakes wants to move down. He's going to go in on the brakes here, and the Send It racing driver Tim Probert sends it into the braking zone of his own doing. And in the end, right now, we look back for the rear of the 3-1-2, and I think Noakes wants to go to the inside of the chicane, and Probert made sure there was only enough space there for him to have 2 wheels on the road to do so. And I think Thomas Noakes at one moment was thinking, you know what, I can get in that space, and then realising you're driving a Ferrari 296 GT3 and not a rallycross car. But still, he'll go for it. That's the excitement he has and the energy he has, no doubt about it. Noakes right now really fired up today. But Probert, ever since Brands Hatch last time out, he's been looking absolutely on form. And I do wonder whether really the first couple of rounds this season have just been building up something special. Now he's got his feet and he's got his teeth sunk into this, and he's going on a mission because this is the best we've seen for the 3-1-2 driver. And that's not to say he hasn't been impressive in other rounds, so he's not had his moments. But here, right, oh my goodness, he has a huge moment there. And well, that's not going to be one of his most impressive moments of the season. It looked impressive to see that McLaren going into the air, but the Send It racing driver in the end sent it a bit too hard. And well, in the end, it definitely came down to terra firma quite rapidly. Anti moves up into 4th. Noakes moves up into 3rd, that'll be in class as well. And Tim Roberts' aspirations to be on that podium came to a crushing halt there whilst he was flying high. But as he does so, Ashley Brooks behind, still trying to give chase here for Axis Sport Bandits. And we can see just now right behind him was Max Wheeler. Then makes way onwards to reverse the fast by Wheeler Racing, and the McLaren driver right now still under pressure from Tom Cordy and Mikey Stewart. Now Mikey Stewart hasn't gained or lost any place in the interclass. He's made 0 progress, he's not regressed. Tom Cordy, meanwhile, has been able to progress quite significantly. So, bit of a difference of 2 stories here in the races, but Stewart, our championship leader, I think just trying to keep his head to the ground at the moment and not make any mistakes. That's going to be the key part for the BMW M4 driver after what happened at Brands Hatch, although arguably you would say that it was less a mistake and more an unfortunate circumstance in the incident between himself and Zilka. But as they do come down towards turn number 1, leaves the door open to Harvey Wheeler, who's trying to recover places. Wheeler up the inside, fastest lap of the race as well, a 26.893. That is an incredible lap there for the Verso Rapid by Wheeler Racing driver, absolutely flying around right now. Jack Barker, meanwhile, still chased after James Mutti. He's currently 9th. Oh, that's going to be a big lock into the braking zone there for none other than the BMW of David Young. And I think that was to respect the blue flags versus what's Luke Sherlock, but also there, a bit of a lock-up on the front right. And there won't be, in fact, a lock-up on the car itself because these machines do have ABS, or anti-lock braking systems. But what happens is when the ABS is triggered very aggressively, or when the ABS maxes out, it will cause the car to understeer. It will essentially release the brake pedal. The driver can have their brakes put all the way to the floor, but it will release the actual braking force of the car, and so the car will essentially glide onwards into the corner, carrying a bit more speed, but that's to prevent the brakes from fully seizing, and once prevents the lockup, or the anti-part of the anti-lockup system. But as Jake Muttitt makes his way up through its line box chicane, that's still Barker pushing him on. And right now the Phoenix Racing Blue try losing time to Steve Hughes little by little. But as they power the way up through these corners right now, well, where's the action coming from next? Grant Miller finds that Steve Hughes wants that overall at 19th place off of him. And we've almost cleared the opening 20 minutes of this race. Plenty of excitement. Just a reminder, if you just tuned in, we are not racing under yellow flag conditions. Unfortunately, it's a glitch for our overlay that we cannot resolve. It did throw us off a little bit earlier at the start of the race, but we are in full race pace here, ladies and gentlemen. So entirely outside our control. So if you do see yellow flags, ignore them. But meanwhile, Nathan Anstis there battling with Harvey Wheeler, but Wheeler's going to make that move, and he'll make it stick there through turn 1 into 2. So Harvey Wheeler gains another place. He makes his way onwards, and well, he's putting in an absolute monster effort. As meanwhile, Tim Probert trying to get his way back ahead. Your interleader, Asai Anti, does so very quickly, and I think Anti being very obliging there, deciding not to fight too hard, and we're worried more about Ashley Brooks trying to chase him down. But place is being made by several drivers, as Anton Kilo, the man who started from the pit lane due to a technical issue with the car that was identified in the warm-up, and literally got it there with about 30 seconds before the green flag went down to go racing. Well, Kelo still trying to recover his way forward. Looks up the inside here, Harry Sevan. Will he get it done there versus the Spectre Racing driver? Not quite versus the Feet Simworks machine. As right now, Kelo having to look round the outside, coming through Stern Votbox, and as he rolls his way through. Well, I think right now it's going to be about the run towards Lucien Bianchi box instead. Is he going to be able to do it? Not quite here. Well, there's some places you can overtake, there's some where it's a lot harder to do so. And that's what Kelo is finding out right now as he makes his way down towards the Klein chicane. And remember, of course, these two drivers are in two different classes, but they're both on the overall lap. It's not as though each driver has to let a pro driver go or vice versa. So as they head onwards up towards Bitter. Well, meanwhile, just in front, Ryan Littlemore still keeping Stephen Wilkinson behind. Both made some ground today. As Littlemore there making a complete ham sandwich of the salon box chicane, going straight on. That's going to be a slowdown penalty picked up as well as an off track, and also potentially a little bit of suspension damage there, given the way he clattered over the curbs. There are a lot of sausage curves ingrained into the curbing. It's not a completely flat curve, it's not smooth. But behind, here comes Keel up the inside into Boulder Harshbilbocht, and as he makes the move into turn number 8, well, a lovely move there from Kelo, and Sven could not quite defend that one. The Ferrari driver now up another position. But meanwhile, whilst that's going on, we look back to your club leader of Martin Kenyon. Still maintaining control here at the very front of the field for Pitstep Racing. Well, the triple one from England in a very happy space as he comes down through a bend and into that braking zone for turn 7. But going through to Love and Box chicane, well, he's got to keep that consistency for the whole distance. So that's one of the weaknesses or the Achilles heels of this Lamborghini Huracan Evo Mark 1, is the fact that it does have a bit of a notorious nature of cooking the rear tyres compared to its rivals. But to be fair, Kenyon has demonstrated so far this season that some circuits where tyre degradation really has been a big theme, such as the Hockenheim Ring in our season opener, but he's not afraid to drive this car, and he does have a way of driving it where the tyres definitely stay within a nice operating window. That's been at the core of Kenyon's success, is he's quick in the Lamborghini, but also he's smooth with it. Quick and smooth go together very nicely. But as he heads down towards now his 16th tour of the circuit, well, we are definitely starting to make our way into the pit window as Kyle Roy carries on. You can see that on the left-hand side of your camera shot, that is Andrew Martin. He is going to be the first driver to come in for his strategic pit stop. So Axis is what Smurf drives, comes in from 5th place in the interclass. He'll release several drivers on through as they make the way past our camera, including Steve Hughes and Jack Barker. So let's wait and see what that does to change things up. And well, it does change up anything, as John Harley, unfortunately, having an extended time in the pit lane. So something's got very wrong for the 239 Mercedes driver. We'll have to wait and find out what that is. But I think they're taking a look at the car. There's something wrong with it from what I hear in my ear. But we see Steve Hughes chasing down Grant Miller. Of course, oval position only. Here are your class standings on the left-hand side of your screen at the moment. And well, Adam Watson, Fotis Katechos, and Thomas Noakes, your top 3 in pro. Oh, yeah, I can tell you one thing, Tim Probert is very quickly catching up to Noakes right now. That's a very impressive charge going on from him. And into it, Cy Anti, Ashley Brooks, and then top 40. And in the club class, it's still Martin Kenyon, Jordan Maymart, and Grant Miller. a bit further back. Meanwhile, we do have, where's the encroaching presence here of Stephen Wilkinson trying to chase down Ryan Littlewell for that 9th place, although they do have somebody now splitting the turf of them. That is your in-strider Harry Sven, who has decided he wants to play ball here as they make the way through turn number 4. And right now you can understand if Wilkinson's perhaps just hoping that Savan's going to be a bit of a nuisance and get in the way of Littlewell, perhaps at a critical point in the lap, such as one of these heavy braking zones, and they would just get a lot closer. James Conley a bit further back, chased after David Young. Both of these drivers have pitted. They pitted on lap number 10. Now, we believe that both drivers did have a bit of difficulty, particularly Conley. He did have a big spin coming out to turn number 10. David Young, I think he did have an off track. I've got no information to suggest otherwise why he's pitted other than strategy. And with 10 laps in, that would put you around about 15 minutes into the race. It would make sense. That's within the pit window, given the fuel tanks they've run. So it could work out. Zolder Singset comes in. So he will now leave his positions. He will drop back down to the back end of the Cup field. We look forward to him where he'll come back in the racing order later on. Scotty's still chasing hard here. We look for the move into turn number 2. Not quite, as they make the way through turn number 2 in towards 3 and 4. And, well, the UKSimRacing Norris driver getting everything together as quickly as he can. But as he makes his way onwards, still looking for that opportunity right aboard the dashboard here. You've definitely seen the difference to 2 cars here. We know this Ferrari doesn't have that much straight line speed. In Garrett's speed, it takes a very long time. That BMW in front, a lot quicker on the straights, but it's in these sweeping bends, which is where James Conley is really able to make his mark. As hold the phone, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, that is Martin Kenyon. Kenyon's out to the pit lane, and well, with a tow to the pits there for Martin Kenyon. Well, what exactly is going to happen to him? Well, in fact, is he towing to the pit lane? No, he's still there. As the car comes back for the ether, Grant Miller comes on through, and Martin Kenyon's had the mother of all moments at what has been the running towards turn number 8. You don't normally see a car go wrong there unless there's been contact, but Kenyon's out to lead of the club class. He's still racing, and Jordan Maymar right now as he makes way across the timing line, obscured by a grandstand. Well, he's having to do battle here with Carl Roy. Roy's going to try and go around the outside of him as they make their way through the bends. Well, right now, that's a twist there. 25 minutes into the race, we have a new club leader. Jordan Maymar at this point could be on course to make it 3 in a row and match what Kenyon did for the opening 3 rounds of the season. And well, if he was able to do this, he'll be announcing himself on the scene, no doubt about it, as Kenyon is into the pit lane for what will be repair work at a strategic stop. Jack Barker is in as well. He's not been able to pass Mutt on the road, so he's now going to try and do it through pit strategy. But Carl Roy here going side by side with Jordan Maymar, and we're about to find out what's going to go down between them. And Carl Roy just about takes that place, beating Maymar on the brakes. Smooth move there from none other than Carl Roy. But as they come down the hill, we'll have to wait and see what's next between all the drivers here into that braking zone. As meanwhile, we are going to take a look back at what exactly happened to Martin Kenyon, ladies and gentlemen, and let's fill you in with regards to the story. So this was Kenyon at the time coming out of the last part of Tulare Box Bend. He had behind him Tom Cordy and Nathan Anstead. So coming on through, Kenyon went a little bit wide initially, and the car got hooked onto the grass there and hit the curb. That's what sent it into the barrier. So in the end, no contact with another driver, and the car rolled, and in the end got stuck towards the barrier there. Not the way you wanted it to go whatsoever. This is what it looked like on board from Kenyon's perspective. Came out the corner as per usual, went through the bend, lifted off the throttle, and understeer crept in. Well, it looked like there was contact on the rear camera. There was not, and the car just pitched into left there. I think there's a technical issue with the car. Who's looking at that steering wheel? Kenyon's not turning that steering wheel whatsoever. That steering wheel has, I think, got stuck. So I think there's a technical issue with the car. It's been pulled to left there. I don't think there was any contact from what we could see. A very odd one there. It's got to be a technical issue with Martin Kenyon, and that's gutting when he was looking in so much control. And now he's dropped all the way down the order into the pit lane. Is that going to be his race over? We will have to see, ladies and gentlemen, as we return to your racing action. And well, at the moment, he's making his way on around as Martin Kenyon, I do believe, as we come back to run on board with Jordan Maymar for a brief moment. But as we do leave his on board behind, and well, we do see our drivers carry on here. Is Kenyon still racing? And the answer is yes, he is. So he has made that pit stop. They've done repair work to the car. But now he's got Jordan Butler for company, and the Spectre Racing Feet Simworks driver behind him at the moment. This is not the way they wanted it to go whatsoever. I will understand a bit of a nightmare moment, and well, now these drivers, one of those situations whereby for Maymar in particular, he'll be very happy to have an opportunity to be able to go on the attack. Meanwhile, for Kenyon, this is not the way he wants it to go whatsoever, and I think there's going to be a degree of frustration here as they do wind the way on. And going on through the bends right now, Well, we do see Derry Young a bit further back, and chasing after James Conley still, the privateer. Does he go for a move? Does he have an opportunity here? The answer is no. But meanwhile, Tom Cordy battling side by side with Nathan Anstis, and we're going to take that place off Anstis, or is he? No, Anstis is going to come back at him here through Sternvotbocht. Return to 2 and up towards 3, and right now goes to the switch back. And as they clear the solar panels, it's going to be Nathan Anstis looking on the inside into Lucy Bianchi box. He'll go all in for that one, and Tom Cordy's going to be made to go very wide. Mikey Stewart's on the back of this now, so this will be the battle for third place arising in the interclass. They come down towards Klein and Chicane. Carl Roy's catch up to the back of this. He wants to go hunting after his good friend and rival Nathan Anstis. Those two have had a rivalry that's burgeoned over the best part of 3 seasons. And well, you can see there Mikey Stewart still staying close. But we're right on board here. And the axis is what was Sim Coach 233, and one opportunity here to perhaps take a podium in the class today, at least on the road. Understand we've got the question mark of strategy here and wait and see how it all plays out. I think Stewart won't be catching up to Ashley Brooks at the site anti based on the way pace is going, but you never know. The bad luck that struck here at Brands Hatch could suddenly be on the other foot for a different driver today. Through that right hand out of turn number 8 they come. As they do, just staying close, but of course he needs to get a move on if he wants to be able to make this happen. And he does have Kyle Roy there looking for an opportunity. I think Stuart had to burn a slowdown penalty there for track limits. Not quite sure where he's picked that up, but he has burned that slowdown quite quickly. And now Jordan Maymar will queue up behind him as well. As he tries to head towards the timeline, we look to Tom. Oh my goodness, there's been a big incident on the start finish track. That's John Harley who's gone round. Nathan Anston's been caught up in that. Tom Cordy's been caught up in it. And meanwhile, Mikey Stewart survived it. So he goes up the inside of Cole Roy to cover him off. And when the end, Roy's going to try to look for a move back here for 11th place overall. I do not believe my eyes, ladies and gents. That was a horror show of an incident on the start finish straight. And well, remember what we said earlier on. The reason we don't run the fast chicane coming out of the final quarter is because of how dangerous it can be. Well, even so, in the slow chicane there, we see a big incident coming out of Jackie Xbox, and we'll get a very clear view of that very shortly as to what exactly has happened. No doubt about it. And as Mikey Stewart makes his way down, Kyle Roy and Jordan Maymar right behind. And well, Maymar right now, the club leader, just hoping that nothing goes wrong at this point onwards. And well, we'll get a replay of that very shortly because that was a horror show incident. And I suspect a big incident there of some description. But meanwhile, as our drivers all cooling down for the moment, Anton Keeler still trying to pick his way past drivers. And credit where it's due to MK Sport driver. He has not given up on this one. He wants the points. He's here to contribute to the team championship with nothing else today. Let's kick up the inside there of Tom Wheeler before turn number 4. Wheeler, of course, a club class driver, so it makes no difference to either driver in terms of the points they take. But right now, Anton Keeler continues his crusade forward. He does, of course, needs to come into the pit lane at some point for what will be his all-important strategic stop. He's not already done it. We don't have any information to suggest he has done that Ferrari, although the fuel-saving capacity of that Ferrari is quite impressive. So therefore, he could pit a lot earlier. He could also pit very late in the day. Anton Keeler right now, definitely impressive in the way he's approached this. But a very mature drive from him thus far. But growing battle for second place overall and in pro. There's Fotis Katechos, there's Thomas Noakes, and Noakes peels out, peels back in as they make the way down. I can see a boat in the background as well, ladies and gents. I don't know if anybody else can see that. That's the first time I've ever seen that, and that's because this circuit does run parallel to a canal. That's the reason why turn number 3 is called Canal Box, I do believe. Well, there's always a learning day in the office here. But as Fotis Katechos right now holds on for a brief moment, well, will we get a replay of what happened on the start for this straight? I think we will, but not before we see this between Ashley Brooks and Casper Brotner. As Brooks going defensive there for 7th place overall. Your second place into drive right now, holding on. Harvey Wheeler and none other than what is the lap down car there of, I do believe, I think that is Peter Holt following together right now. He's 2 laps down at this point in time, but to be fair to Peter, he's not giving up the chase in this one, and he's having a good time out there. But very quickly, we are going to get a replay of what exactly happened on that start finish straight for that huge incident. And here we go for a trip back in time. So this was, well, John Harley had already got off the road and went to come back on. So can we get the full story? Well, that's the whole field coming through, and Nathan Anston is like a ping pong ball there, being to the outside, and well, unfortunately Tom Cordy getting caught up in that. But that's how this is how it started. So this was John Harley making his way through the chicane. Behind sight Anston at the time, he was a lap down. Coming up the bend, the rear of the car let go, swapped sides on him, went to the barrier. So then he went to rejoin, and this is what it looked like from Nathan Anstis' perspective as he made his way out. There was Harley, came back onto the road. Anstis essentially had gone a bit wide, and if he'd held that line, he would have been all right. But I think he was worried about Harley coming back onto the path of him, and unfortunately, Tom Cordy was on the side of him, and that's how it all ended up in tears. This is what it looked like from Cordy's perspective. Well, in fact, it won't look like that from Cordy's perspective. This is the aftermath, but Cordy and in having to toast the pit lane as well, ladies and gentlemen, as we go back to your live racing. And as we do come back, well, still more battles to come here, and that's why we don't want to be away for too long. And again, just a reminder, if you're just tuning in now, ignore the yellow flags at the top of your screen. It's a glitch on our end, and it is not something which has happened, ladies and gents. But unfortunately, what has happened is that Thomas Noakes has found his way past Fotis Katechos whilst we're taking a look back at that. So unfortunately, we have missed that move being made by the 309 driver. But we are hearing that it was made at the start of lap number 24. So Noakes right now ahead. But given the gap as well, I wonder whether Katechos has picked up a slowdown and had to give that place up, essentially. We are just going to double check that data to find out if we can. Meanwhile, Mikey Stewart now up into second place in the interclass for now. So keep in mind the fact we've still got some pit stops to play out between drivers, and that's what we started to really see is pit stops are plenty at the moment between several cars. But with regards to Fotis Katechos, what happened? Well, there was a off track for him on lap number 23, so we do believe that may explain it. He went off the road and might have had to give the place up. But meanwhile, as the battling goes on, Anson Kilo makes another place here on Derek Pilcher. He's going to make that count, as John Butler, meanwhile, has had to tow to the pit lane from what I'm hearing in my ear, so Butler's race has come to a halt. It's not good news for him, and indeed he'll be absolutely frustrated with that, as will the Spectrum Racing team. But he's still got other opportunities later on this season. Even today, of course, he can get himself back out into it. Let's wait and see what the game plan will be. But meanwhile, with Katechos making his way around, right now losing time to Thomas Noakes. Something tells me right now he's not in a happy place. I wonder if that Corvette needs a bit of a breather, and whether perhaps he just needs to get it into the pit lane at the moment. The fuel tanks will be starting to run a little bit drier, and you see Martin Kenyon there glued to the back of Thomas Noakes' car. But remember that Kenyon is a lap down to the leaders now after his huge incident coming out of turn 7 in towards 8. We're not quite sure what happened, and Fotis Katechos at the end decides to come in. But look who follows him in. Now it's going to be Tim Probert coming on in as well. So both drivers there decide to come in. Probert gains a huge amount of time. It was almost as if for Katechos there, that was a last minute call to the pit lane. I think he was already getting ready to break into the chicane, and then I think decided halfway through his braking approach, actually we're coming into the pits. And therefore Probert's caught up, and Noakes right now will look more and more safer for second place. At least that's going to be the theory. Now, also another thing to keep in mind, Harvey Wheeler, remember, the man who had the spin on the opening corner of the open lap, he's up into 5th. He does have quite a gap to close down versus the top 3 in the class based on the strategy, but he's definitely on course potentially for a top 5 right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to be going battling with Tim Probert and Fotis Katechos right towards the end of the race. Heading on down towards turn number 5, and as he heads on down, the Aversa Rapid by three-wheeler racing driver, keeping his head down as much as humanly possible here, and just making sure that he keeps delivering these laps. He definitely had the pace today. We suspect to be on course for a second, if not challenge Watson for the win, but how far can he get back up the field? How much of a personal win will this feel like? Justin Noel as well. Shout out to this man, is Ferrari. The privateer has absolutely been brilliant so far. 3rd on the road currently in Pro. 4th overall. We believe this is going to translate into around about a 5th place in the Pro class once the strategy is all considered, and also the respective paces of drivers, unless he can hold on to places. But still, this has really been a landmark result for him, presumably he brings it home, because we won't see his praises too high, because otherwise I know what's going to happen. It's the old commentator's curse. Even though this has happened already this race, we do find a way to put the curse on drivers, as Noel makes his way into the pit lane. Harvey Wheeler, however, stays out. So he goes another lap, as Noakes is in as well. So Anthony and Watson carry on at the front of the field. And will Mikey Stewart be coming in, our second place in to drive on the road? The answer to that question is no, he does not. He stays out as Jordan Maymar into the pits on the lead of the club class. Here he comes, and will we see a response from Grant Miller. He's a bit further back right now as the Vince Racing Red driver, but on course for a podium here today. Should everything stay the way it is, he's definitely looking good. This is going to be one of his better drives of the season thus far, although that wing continues to escape him in the club class. Unless Jordan Maymar has a difficult day, I think it's going to escape him again today, but you never know, to be fair. We'll have to wait and see. Now, speaking of things we can see Ryan Clark and Matthew Massey coming in. The Spectra Racing Feet Simworks machine of Clark just ahead of Massey's Spectra Racing car. Lovely liveries on those cars. It must be so great to see him coming in formation. Alexander Wingmark stays out meanwhile. Keep your eyes out for the Beta driver from Norway. This is one of the things he is very good at doing. Now, the thing about Alexander Wingmark is he will go very extreme on his strategies. He will either go for a very early undercut or he'll go for a very late overcut. He never quite goes anywhere in between. So whatever lap everybody pits on, expected to go that little bit longer or come in so much earlier than everyone. That's how he makes up the places. He's not the quickest driver in club, but he has pulled some surprising strategy calls this season, and for the most part they have worked out. let's wait and see what this is going to put him. Based on how the field has pitted so far, we suspect he's probably chasing around 6th or 7th place in the club class today, which would be another good haul of points for the Fotis driver. Indeed, he's been one of those drivers we've been watching for the last couple of seasons, and he has been very impressed on the strategy, and hopefully, if he finds a little more pace as the season goes on, we'll be seeing him challenging for top 5s on a regular basis. But as Jack Barker sweeps his way around the outside there of Martin Kenyon, both have pitted. They both pitted on lap number 17. Martin Kenyon forced to pit with the damage on the car. Jack Barker opted to pit to try and jump his way ahead of some of his inter-rivals. Oh, so that's a bit of a run wider for Barker, and Kenyon immediately goes to the inside line as they rake the way down towards the chicane. And well, Jack Barker gives that one up straight away, and both drivers, they get very close. Understandably, Barker wants to go 100 after Luke Sherlock, who's just up the road from him for that 7th place in the interclass, and then Andrew Mateen. But I think right now, what Jack Barker wants and what he gets are going to be slightly different things. As Adam Watson stays out, he's going to be one of a limited number of drivers who's going to a 27th lap on his current fuel tank. So Anthony has pitted on lap 25. So Adam Watson comes through, and he does not pit this time either. He's going to go now a 28th lap of that fuel tank. Well, I can tell you one thing, ladies and gents, but that fuel tank will run dry eventually, but he's going to maximise it. And the reason for that, simply put, is because he wants to make sure that he's not burdened with any strategic traffic. He wants to clear track every step of the way. That's exactly what he's finding. But as he continues to fight it at the moment at least, we'll sight Ansley battling side by side here with Fotis Katechos. Takes place back there overall. That's now moves into 11th place overall, which will translate, we believe, into effectively, hold up a second, Sight Ansley's actually lost out in that pit stop, because now we look back, he's now behind Probert and Noakes, but he was, if my memory serves me correctly, he was ahead of them or with them at the start before the pit stops occurred. So Ansley has lost out overall position. He hasn't lost out class position by any means. We're waiting to see where Mikey Stewart's going to come out. Ashley Brooks is quite a way back. If Ansley's making his way out of 9, here's Brooks coming out of turn 7 in towards turn 8. So the Axis and Sport Bandits driver right now not going to be making a steal in this one. He's going to have to settle for what we believe will be 2nd or 3rd in the interclass. But where is Stewart? He's still being serviced at the moment. So the 2-3-3 drive falls down the order as Tim Probert has Thomas Noakes closing very rapidly on him. And we can see there the car stepping aside of Harry Saverne, but Probert's got that growing pressure. Where is Stewart coming out? Well, he makes his way out the pit stall, so Ansley's gone past. Where is Ashley Brooks? There is Brooks, so I think Mikey Stewart's not going to be able to jump the 219. No, Brooks will return to what we believe is effective 2nd place in the interclass. So Ansley's back into lead, and they do have a whole group of 6 pro drives between them. So Sight Ansley is looking safe here for the inter win, unless he makes a major mistake. Ashley Brooks right now is 5 seconds ahead of Mikey Stewart. They will be potentially a double Axis Sport podium here in the interclass, presuming that Steve Hughes and Hendrik Zilker do not thread the needle in amongst them, as Adam Watson heads into the pits at long last. The fuel tank after 28 laps, plus going on to the 29th lap in the pit lane, and says, Adam, I can't go any further. And Adam decides that McLaren finally needs a bit of respite, as Hendrik Zilker, who has yet to pit as well, he's gone the best part of 28 laps. Well, he'll be making his way on down pit road shortly. And there he goes from the lead of the interclass. He'll be happy with that, the old duty car's amnesia driver. And well, the strategic call here may work out, as Steve Hughes does the same. So the last of the pit stops are now coming through. And Alexander Vinmark, who has pitted, he pitted on lap 26. Didn't quite go the maximum you could, but he's come out ahead of Ryan Clark and Matthew Massey. So this has leapt him up in a 4th place here, the Bates driver. Good effort from him. And they've got to try and hold them off. And the thing is, oh my goodness, he goes airborne there on 2 wheels. And well, that's going to give him a yellow flag there, which you'll have to serve. Not the yellow flags you see at the top of the screen, ladies and gentlemen. And well, Ryan Clark will take the place immediately. So Vinmark, after leaping the Spectre Racing cars and strategy, he loses one there for a mistake through the Kleiner chicane. And whilst the Kleiner normally small, that was definitely not a Kleiner incident. That was definitely what would have been a Grosser incident if we used German there. I'm not quite sure what the Belgian is so big, but somebody could fill me in on that one. But as Matthew Massey follows him, it's now going to be to see where Massey can make it a double top 5 for Spectre Racing in the club class, or where Alexander Vinmark could hold on for just that little bit longer. Ryan Littlemore and David Young, they're still together, albeit Littlemore now is behind Young, whereas Young was ahead of him before the pit stops. And now as they make the way on through, where it's going to now be Young, who is going to hold off here as Little Boy has to go defensive versus a car, and then realise at last round, actually I better not do that because that's Mikey Stewart, lead lapper, who's trying to come through. So the first pass by Freewheeler Racing driver, I think having a crisis of mental conscience there, and then realise at last round, we all do it to be fair, when we're trying to focus on the battle in front of us, but also keep mindful of the drivers behind us, and went into doing very well to make sure that Mikey Stewart made his way through uninterrupted. But behind Hendrik Zilka and Andrew Montine, they are fighting over fourth place in the interclass now. The pit stops are done. Jordan Maymar, the club leader, lets them both go, albeit he has got only 4.5 seconds to Grant Miller, who has closed up a little bit in the pit stop. So that's a bit of a story, a bit of a narrative of its own. Battle-wise then, we've still got more excitement to come, and will Montine look for the move here? He thinks about it to turn 8, but then realises that's too far even for the Lamborghini, and therefore can't make it happen as we look back for the rear of the 202. The pound its way onwards at the moment, the old dude's own car's amnesia machine. Well, he's definitely trying to absolutely push this one to the limit, as Montine staying with him. Over the curve they go, through the corners. He rolls off the bend right now. Well, for Zilka in at the Swiss Mercedes, he'll be just hoping that Montine cannot get close enough here to make a move happen. Although, Andre, to be fair, he's one of those drivers who's normally very patient. He waits for the right time to strike. That's what it's all about, as this gap right now, no greater than 3 tenths as they come through Sternvot-Bocht. Coming out to the right-hander. You see this Mercedes, whilst it hasn't got the cornering capacity of the Lamborghini, my goodness, does it really open up a gap on the throttle. And once that naturally aspirated 6.3 litre V8 engine, just simply gradually stripping open a gap there versus the Audi V10 in the back of that Lamborghini, and were able to open up a bit more of a gap as they make their way down towards turn number 5. Into the chicane they go, and as they do, right now the 202 driver here definitely looking a bit more comfortable, and will hopefully keep that gap safe for the old dudes in cars team. But then again, Andrew Montine, I think we'll have an ace up his sleeve. He's just getting ready to deploy it. But to Thomas Noakes we go, and with the distant view there for the UK Sim Sport driver, as he comes down in towards the opening bend. All right, now still staying safe and still staying comfortable as Tim Probert is chasing after him as much as possible. And, well, as we do look to the long distance view as they sweep their way through the bend. Noakes right now holding it together or thereabouts. Probert is a second behind and is looking to be the quicker driver at this time. And that's going to be a bit of a fault, given the fact these two were definitely very close to each other earlier on in terms of pace. And, well, I think we're going to see what is round 3 of their battle commence here today. And if so, it's definitely going to be an exciting one at that, I can tell you, given the fact how close they've been so far this season. And, well, it is Tim Probert today who's really come alive as they make their way down in towards the Sternvot-Bocht chicane. Coming on through at the corner sequence right now. Andrew Montine still trying to give chase, keeping an eye on that battle in the interclass between himself and Hendrik Zilka. And we'll keep fires when we can, as well as any other battles out there, ladies and gentlemen. Speaking of battle, well, Casper Ottner right now trying to make a move on Max Wheeler here, albeit they're both trying to go around Stephen Wilkinson. He's going to make his way past the club driver, put a lap on him, and Max Wheeler safe for now. Holding on to that 7th place in the Pro class, what is 8th overall. And again, there could be a twist in the tail before this is done. Now, Alexander Wingmark has been passed off camera. Unfortunately, we didn't quite catch it. He has been passed by Matthew Massey. Meanwhile, Anton Kelo has just found his way past Ryan Clark. So Clark now in 4th place of club, 22nd overall, that demotes him to. And then you can see Massey and then Wingmark behind. Unfortunately, we didn't quite catch that move being made by Morris Massey on Wingmark. We do believe it's only happened a couple of laps ago. Tom Wheeler still chasing after David Pilcher. And we do jump aboard here with the Mercedes driver. And the adversary rapid by Freewheeler Racing Machine. Staying nice and close, they make the way down the backstretch. Looking once, we look twice. The answer's going to be no. And well, in the end, David Pilcher stays in the middle of the road for the most part there. He doesn't look quite happy, does David. And I suspect he's worried about Wheeler looking for a move, as both drivers there take a lot more curb than they want, albeit for Tom Wheeler, he has to settle the car down a bit more compared to the BMW of Pilcher. And well, in the end, Pilcher able to just bolt away a little bit. When they're able to way through the chicanes, as I stumble over my words there, and as they come through to Sternvot-Bocht bend, well, Wheeler still giving that pursuit as much as he possibly can. But we are seeing here this Ford Mustang, given how heavy a car it is, when you hit those curbs incorrectly, it just slides around there. They do refer to it as a boat, this car, the Ford Mustang, not just for the fact that it does feel like it's the size of a boat, but also the weight you're tossing around. and therefore every little curve strike can really unsettle the car. But meanwhile, we'll hear something unsettling for you as they make the way in towards the chicane. Andrew Montine trying to look for the move down Zilka, can't quite find it this time, but almost does on the break into Kleiner, and we're coming down for a bit of bend right now. Montine's going to look round the outside here. Will he go for the brakes versus Zilka? I think he's going to have to. No, not quite. And Hendrik Zilka still holding on for now as Andrew Montine hustling, pushing, doing everything he can to make this move happen. As they roll the way out the hill, they're on lap number 32 of what is expected to be around about, I'd say, 40 to 42 laps here today, ladies and gents. But we are getting these laps in rather rapidly. Big run deep there by what is Hendrik Zilka, but Montine's not close enough to capitalise. This fight for full place right now here, the Interclass absolutely on the limit. Jordan Maymar, the club leader, just watching behind as they head into that braking zone for the final chicane of this lap. I think it's a bit of a question of when, not if, Montine can get alongside. Oh, that's a lot of power oversteer there from both cars. But right now, Andrew Montine going for the run here, down towards turn number 1. I don't think Zilka's got a response. In fact, I think he's picked up a slowdown there. He's having to let the place go. And as a result, Andrew Montine will scoop his way out the inside. So Montine makes the move. And Hendrik Zilka, a slowdown or correction of mistake. Loses that. And Jordan Maymar here is knocking on the door and saying, well, can I come through too as well, please? As Steve Hughes has catched up to this group, 1.3 seconds behind. Now you can see him in the orange and Porsche 992 for UK Sim Racing. He'd love an opportunity to get involved there when he can, although he's got a bit of work to do if he wants to get involved in that. Now, meanwhile, whilst all this is playing out, and we do see their change just off camera, I do believe that was two drivers of two different classes interchanging, and I think that was that was not Tom Wheeler there, that was a different driver entirely. Tom Wheeler heads down the start-finish straight, still chasing after David Pilcher, and you can see them there together, although they do have just the question mark of what is a car behind him in the form of Thomas Noakes, and Tim Probert is a bit further back. Probert, in fact, has been dropped now. I do wonder what's happened to Tim Probert, because he seems to have lost quite a bit of pace quite recently. I wonder if there's been a mistake. If so, we've not been able to get any information on it, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen. With Probert being dropped back a little bit from Noakes, although saying that, he now catches up coming through the right-hander at turn number 4, but taking all the track and plenty more there. That's value-added tarmac, also known as gravel in this instance. And Tim Probert flashes his headlights there at the machinery of Tom Wheeler, saying to him, I want to come through. And the Syndic Racing Tribe definitely getting ready to go all in here. And I suspect Tom Wheeler will let that go, going down for Butter in towards Salaman box. And he does so, and that's Tim Probert carrying his journey to chase down second place if he can. Casper Brotner, meanwhile, fire to Max Wheeler again. This time, too wide for a brief moment, coming down towards the Kleiner chicane. Not going to work. Now Max Wheeler covering him off there, but Casper Brotner right now, the 311 driver, absolutely itching for this opportunity for seventh place in the pro class. And coming down that hill well. For Wheeler, it's all about defending as much as humanly possible. They do have a 5-second gap to Justin Noel in front of them, and Kyle Roy is 8 seconds behind, with two inter-drivers between Roy and Brotner. So therefore, Casper Brotner has got all the time in the world if he wants to try and go for this move. Albeit he won't have all the time necessarily, because we are running out of it. We've only got 10 minutes or so to go. These battles definitely keeping interest going, as meanwhile, you see Oliver Singset here, running 13th in the club class, still chasing after Jake Muttett, with Jordan Butler 20 seconds behind, the last of your club runners, and indeed last of your race runners at the moment. We have lost on the way John Harley, Steve Hobbs, Daniel Pays, and Hayden Young. And unfortunately, it's gone very wrong for a few drivers, including for poor Hayden Young, who had it all go wrong at the start of the race. And we also saw early retirements for Pays and Hobbs, and a more recent retirement for Harley. So, difficult days for a few drivers out there, no doubt about it. Meanwhile, David Pilcher. Tom Wheeler gets it very close there, going out of turn number 4. Wheeler's got the pace out these sweeping bends. He's just got to try and beat the BMW on the brakes. That's the one thing it won't be able to do, that Mustang, given the weight of the car. David Pilcher, by comparison, a bit more comfortable here on the braking. As we do see there, that is going to be into leader side. Anthony getting ready to try and put a lap on the pair of them. And I think Pilcher this won't be hoping that Wheeler does give way sooner rather than later. This is not a comfortable place to be in for the SimCast Racing UK driver. But when you're racing at Circuit Zolder and you're the lead car, as we do see there, Wheeler does let Anthony go. And does so quite sacrificially there. Lets him go, coming out to London box sequence. Wouldn't have expected that, and I would have expected it going to the hairpin as Anthony dives up the inside. My good lord. Si, you do realise you're leading the interclass, don't you? Don't need to be that risky with it, although Science is leading the interclass by the best part of about 20 seconds. But at the same time as well, if I was leading the class, I wouldn't go for it like that. But then again, and to be fair, he's taking the approach which is, if I'm decisive enough, the driver in front of me will need to be very aware of me. Well, that's one way to look at it, and to be fair, that's not being rude about David Pilcher. I'm sure he's got eyes in the back of his head. As they come down here, well, Tom Wheeler lets another track place go. He lets it go to Fotis Katechos, so he's definitely being cognizant of the drivers coming through. And here is Fotis Katechos right now, still trying to chase after what will be Tim Probert. But what's getting very interesting is this man closing on Fotis Katechos. Harvey Wheeler, he has been closing down the top 5 a second a lap, if not more. The only driver who is beating on pace here is Adam Watson. Otherwise, Harvey Wheeler is the fastest driver out on the circuit. Watson is a 10th faster on average at the moment, but Wheeler is flying out there. He has closed down that gap of 8 seconds to Katechos, now all the way down to what he's just shy of 5 tenths of a second. Katechos has not had the best of runs through the Kleiner chicane. And Harvey Wheeler immediately says to David Pilcher, I'm coming through, don't ask any questions. And I think before David Pilcher even knows what to say, Harvey Wheeler's already passed there through the chicane. But Wheeler is absolutely flying right now as we ride on board the 334 driver, and we're on his way down the hill towards that braking zone. We're looking at the dashboard here, and the speed he is carrying. This is monstrous from young Harvey, I can tell you that. He's one of the younger drivers on the grid, but right now, a pro driver here, he's absolutely throwing himself with abandon into this, and we absolutely love to see it as he comes on down. And, well, as he makes his way in towards the braking zone here at turn at number 10. Katechos going a bit deeper there. That's where the time's been lost by the Corvette drivers. The rear of the car sliding loose on the Corvette Z06 GT3 C8, I should say. Goodness me, that's a mouthful to say on a morning. And coming down towards turn number 1 right now. Wheeler rolling his way through here. But of course, the closer he gets, the harder it gets, because he now has to battle with the wall of dirty air that's washing off the back of a very aerodynamic Corvette in front of him. But Wheeler getting nice and close here as he makes one out. And, well, that battle is about to really come alive. They're on lap number 37. And with there being 6 minutes left on the clock, we are looking at a grand total here today of what will be 41 laps, we can now confirm. And for Harvey Wheeler, this is going to be a huge effort. If he takes home at that full place in the Pro Class, to finish 5th in the class already is heroic enough. But right now, he's going just a little bit further. Further back, we do have Casper Rottner still chasing after Max Wheeler for 7th place in Pro. And, well, going down to the braking zone towards the first of the chicanes here. Not quite able to make a move on the McLaren driver. Staying nice and close. Other battles in classes. Tom Wheeler and David Pilcher still together at the moment at least. As we see them heading up the hill, and they're still batting over 7th place in the club class. But we are going to leave them behind from Reefman as Alexander Wingmark is being dropped there by the Spectre of Racing Cars. As you can see, he's now going to have Nathan Anstis looking for a move, because as Anstis gets ready to go up the inside into turn 1, but he won't quite this time. Well, Matthew Massey does have Luke Sherlock close by, and so club and Interdries all together. We do come back to Katechos versus Harvey Wheeler. As they go on to lap number 38. What's it going to be this time? As we see none other than Sight Anstey just in front of them. And Tim Probert just made his way through the bottom of the camera, but the interleader right now looking very comfortable and not looking under too much pressure here as they roll the way through. Well, Katechos, well, his game plan is going to be one whereby I suspect he's going to get ready to make his Corvette as wide as possible. How much tyre life has he got left in the Corvette to be able to do that? That is going to be the number 1 question. You can see there, Wheeler just looking very aggressive. He's really pointing that car. He's just got so much more confidence here. It's a poor run coming out turn 4. Here comes Wheeler, looking to the inside, down to the braking zone. And Katechos tried to squeeze as much as possible there, but has to give him the space. They come in, and they squeeze each other. And Fotis Katechos then goes straight on Harvey Wheeler, gets sent up into 2 wheels. And will need a dry way to back out there, understandably. And in the end, Harvey Wheeler now comes back at him, looking down the outside towards Salaman, but bend onto the brakes they go. Katechos going deep, covers it off, literally makes himself as wide as humanly possible there. We call that parking the bus. And as he makes way through Salaman, but bend right now, I want to tell you one thing, this bus has got nobody getting on it, because right now Harvey Wheeler is not able to find a way through whatsoever. As we jump aboard with the 334 driver, well, of course, he won't be too pleased about the way he was muscled up onto the curb at turn number 5, but understandably, that chicane, too wide for it, is absolutely tricky at best. But both drivers got away with it. Nobody's picked up a slowdown. I suspect the time they lost fighting into the chicane has offset the risk of picking up what would be a yellow flag slowdown penalty, and therefore we get this battle to continue, which is fantastic. They go on to lap number 39 now. We're going to stay with this battle all the way to the very end, ladies and gents, but I suspect, given how ferocious it is, our battles elsewhere are coming down for a brief moment as they roll the way through turn number 1. So Wheeler now knows that if he's going to try and make a move into turn 5, Fotis Katechos will compress him so much onto the curb, he's going to make it unrealistic in terms of making a move. Nothing illegal what Katechos is doing, to be fair, it takes 2 to tango. So what Wheeler's now got to think is, if he's going to be that way in the heavy braking zones, I need to get him somewhere where he's not going to be able to do that. I need to think about a sweeping bend, or I need to surprise him with a better run elsewhere. So where could he do it? Well, one place he could go for it potentially is he gets a really good run out of the chicane here, going through Butter in towards Salam and Bot Bend. So this time, what will he do? Good run through the chicane, but Katechos gets a good one as well. A lot of torque on that Corvette, just enables him to get the power down. And going down the hill here, you can see Katechos puts the car in the middle of the road for a little bit of a moment. Not quite a full racing line there, and that is a sign again. He knows he's going to have to defend. He doesn't want Wheeler to get any momentum going through these corners, and that gap blows right open. But we do leave that battle for a brief moment, because here is Casper Brotner and Max Wheeler back together once again, making the way through the chicane, and that's going to be up the inside for Max Wheeler. Takes the place back over Casper Brotner. He lost it only moments ago. He's now got it back there for 7th place in Pro. And, well, Casper Brotner right on the back of him, but what will it be as Katechos and Wheeler, that gap has opened up. That's Harvey Wheeler has opened up to 1.1 seconds, but here is Casper Brotner up the inside of Max Wheeler. Goes all in on the brakes. Does he get it stopped to the hairpin? The answer is yes, he does. Takes that place off him. Now, other drama as well. We have had an incident for Martin Kenyon, who's third in the club class. He's still going at the moment, but he has been involved in an incident of some description. We might have to get a replay of that after the race is complete, ladies and gentlemen. But a big shock to the system now, I believe. And that now is going to put him at risk of Ryan Clark catch up, although the gap between the two of them is about 3.5 seconds at the moment. But still, we'll keep you apprised of that when we can. And Mikey Stewart, meanwhile, he's all over the back of Ashley Brooks here. In fact, Brooks is missing the front bumper. What on earth has happened to Ashley Brooks? As they make the way onto lap number 40, penultimate lap here today. Brooks is missing the bumper. Mikey Stewart's on the attack here in the Exodus Sport team right now. Well, both drivers want this just as bad as one another, but Mikey Stewart here wants it more. He's got a championship on the line here as he makes his way through. He wants to try and make sure that he can open that lead as much as possible too while they come through Canal Box. In towards Lucy and the Bianchi block they go. Tap side by side again. They're going to fight each other every step of the way. And Mikey Stewart up the inside there takes the place. But well, now Ashley Brooks come back at him coming down towards the Clyde chicane. He's going to be right in his rear bumper. Carl Roy's into the pit lane for fuel, we're hearing. So that's going to drop him down the order and relegated by an Anton Kalo. But Mikey Stewart takes that place. But just in time, we come back to Fotis Katechos versus Harvey Wheeler. 2 wide through turn 8 they go. A small touch between them, but in the end, Wheeler's earned the right to be on the inside. He's down towards Jackie in box. He's going to be squeezed all the way to the white line, but he can only squeeze him so far. The nose that Aston Martin is still there. Into the braking zone they go. Hard on the anchors. There's going to be a touch, and it's going to push Katechos wide, and Harvey Wheeler in the end, well, he's given as good as he's been given. They absolutely love this battle, and as they come down the start finish straight, they go into the final lap here, and it's going to be Katechos on the outside, Wheeler on the inside as they come down into the braking zone. Oh, through the left-hander they go, and Katechos right now on the outside line. He's got to go for a switchback, but he finds a face full of Wheeler instead as they roll the way onwards. And go through the right-hander now at turn number 2. Katechos goes for a switchback once again here, but it's not going to be enough. That Aston Martin gets the throttle buried nice and early. And well, it's been fair, it's been firm, it's been furious racing between these two. Katechos looks up the inside, he tries to send it. It doesn't quite work out, however, and I think that's going to go to Harvey Wheeler now. Wheeler will just open up that gap enough, surely, at this point in time. We'll have to wait and see, ladies and gentlemen, whether Fotis Katechos can find any more time out there. Meanwhile, Mikey Stewart and Ashley Brooks are fighting once again. So he thought he got ahead, and he hadn't quite got it done. They're still going to fight here. They're going to fight this all the way to the very end. But meanwhile, at the very end of the road, for Adam Watson, it didn't quite work out at Brands Hatch. The grass stopped him early on. But here today, he's touched no grass. He's touched every heart, however, because the Elgin 3M Esports driver will take victory here, pro and overall, by an absolutely staggering margin of 21.5 seconds. And as he crosses that line, we will see Thomas Noakes coming through shortly, and well, for him today, it's not been the story he's wanted of a win, not a third win of the season. What it definitely will be at the very end is the run-up spare for the MK Sim Sport driver and a championship lead that will be extended in Pro. Tim Probert takes his best drive of the season with third place, Pro and overall, and Cy Anthony makes it back-to-back wins in the Interclass, untouchable today for UKSimRacing Hamilton ahead of Harvey Wheeler, who just brings home that 4th place, an absolutely daring and determined drive. His recovery was incredible. Fotis Katechos completes the Pro top 5 and 6th place. Just now his best drive of his season, the best drive I've ever seen from Justin in my career of commentating this racing. Finishes 7th, ahead of Casper Brotner and Max Wheeler, with Brotner taking that battle in the end. Mikey Stewart, meanwhile, he is going to get back out of Ashley Brooks. We're going to need to get a replay of that one, because Mikey Stewart in the end takes 2nd place in the Interclass ahead of Brooks at the line, and that will complete your run to 11th place. Andrew Bettine, meanwhile, comes out the final quarter after his race log battle of Hendrik Zilke to take home 4th place in the Interclass and 12th overall. Zilke will be just behind them in the rear of your picture. As I think there's been a bit of an agreement between drivers down in the gravel to play about. And then we do have Jordan Maymar taking home the club win there. 3 in a row for the SimRacing Racing UK driver. He'll be absolutely ecstatic about that ahead of Steve Hughes and Grant Miller. Once again, the bridesmaid, but not the bride of the club class, but another podium finish for the Phoenix Racing Red driver. He's getting incredibly good at those. Anton Kilo brings home 17th place in the end. And he'll be your last lead lap finisher with Jack Barker, the first driver to finish a lap down in 18th place. Who finished third in club? Martin Kenyon with only a 2.5 second gap to Matthew Massey in the end, and Alexander Wimart did take the 5th place in the end. Now, what happened to Ryan Clark? I wonder whether Clark potentially had to come into the pit lane for fuel, or he was involved in an incident of some description. I believe it may have been an incident for Ryan Clark. We will find out that and plenty more, ladies and gentlemen, but the first thing we need to do is find out what exactly happened between our second place battle for the interclass of Mikey Stewart and Ashley Brooks. And I think we are going to be able to get a bit of a replay of that as we do take a quick trip back in time. Or are we going to be able to? We'll see. And the answer to that question is going to be yes, we can do. And here is what happened. So, this was the battle between the two of them coming down through Butterben. This was on lap 40. I think we're going to get a replay of the whole 1.5 laps here, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, my goodness. Ashley Brooks in the end going absolutely airborne, cutting over to Larman Box chicane in the process of doing so. Got it wrong. And, well, today he's lost that front bumper, but it's not helped him at all. But in the end, carries on straight on. I suspect he's had to give up the time eventually. But we're trying to do it into turn 8 there, try to take it as slow as possible to burn off the slowdown penalty. It's a tactic you can use, all the drivers are aware of it. Well, in the end, Mikey Stewart flashes headlights at him like mad to say to him, give me the place back. You've not earned that. But I think Ashley Brooks was saying, if you want the place, you're going to have to come and take it off of me. So they made their way onto a final lap. And how did that battle then go down, I hear you ask? Well, they made their way onto the start-finish line. This was onto lap 41, and Mikey Stewart right behind. But did he go for the move into turn 1? No, it was not. It was, in fact, a bit later on. And of course, we caught them going back and forth, and that was the big explainer as to exactly how Ashley Brooks got back ahead. And then Mikey Stewart said, right, doors wide open going into turn number 2, put some mental pressure on, and made his way out of the bend. Went as a roll all the way out towards turn number 4, but no way in initially. So where did he get the move? It must have been, was a little bit later on, because he did find his way back past, unless I'm mistaken. And will pound his way on down here in towards the incline chicane. Still not able to find that move initially, so it's got to be a little bit later. Perhaps it was right towards the end of the lap, as they made way in towards Butterbend here. And it's still Stewart having to play the game of chase, although man who did in the end bring over that second place, well, he's ever found it somewhere, ladies and gents. We're just going to wait and see here, but we've got brilliant racing between these two every step of the way. And in the end, Ashley Brooks, I don't know how he's been able to keep that car together without that front bumper, and that's not going to be a very aerodynamic McLaren. And we're down in towards turn number 8 at the hairpin here, and Mikey Stewart went all in under braking there, and that's how he took it. He saved the best for last, and he went all in on the brakes and said to Ashley Brooks, look, I'm going to send this right now. It's either going to end one way or the other. Well, that's definitely one way to assert dominance over a sister team driver. And in the end, Mikey Stewart taking that second place and with it, running with it all the way to check a flag. What a move from Mikey Stewart. But to be fair to Ashley Brooks, given how his McLaren have been airborne at some points, I think he'll be very happy just to be on that podium. But meanwhile, we also saw this for Alexander Wimart versus Ryan Clark, and this was a move on lap 40. And this was, I believe, Ryan Clark having things go a little bit wrong. Now, what exactly did go wrong for Clark was going down towards turn number 1, and into that braking zone he went, and went very deep there. And Alexander Wimart, in the end, make his way past. In fact, I think there's been a penalty of some description applied to what is Ryan Clark's race there. I think there's been a black flag, and that's why the place has been given to Wimart, because Ryan Clark has been demoted down to 8th place in the club class. So Wimart crossed the line in the end. He was 6th on the road in club, but he was promoted to 5th, as we understand it. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's go back to your circuit side pictures and bring you the race results. And as we do come back, well, the racing has come to a halt, but what a race it has been today. No doubt about it. Even the yellow flags glitching out our time tail could not stop us. Glitching out overlay could not stop us from having plenty of fun and exciting racing. And here are those results, subject to any stewards' inquiries. And as we got to see, Adam Watson, your winner here today for Altitude Frame Esports, overall by 21.8 seconds ahead of Thomas Noakes. The MK Sim Sport driver, not able to stay with him, but to be fair, And in the intense fighting he had experience, was able to make sure he was second best ahead of Tim Probert, the SimRacing driver who had all the pace in the first 40 minutes of the race, but in the final 20 minutes it started to lean the way back towards the MK Simsport Ferrari. So Anthony, fourth place there, his best result of the season overall, and a huge in-to-win, 2 in a row now. The Welshman's very much come alive for UKSimRacing Hamilton, 7 seconds clear of Harvey Wheeler, who, given he was relegated all the way down the order after that open lap spin at turn 1, was to finish 5th versus Rapid by Free Wheeler Racing and fight his way past Fotis Katechos right at the end there. An incredible drive from him. For Katechos, the split track esports driver, well, definitely was not on the pace again today, but better than Brands Hatch. But we'll know that today, again, some key points have slipped out of his grasp. Justin Noel, 7th there, the privateer, couldn't quite stay with the top 5 of Pro, but was 6th place in class, 7th overall, and a very happy drive from him. Had a Casper Brunner for Old Dudes and Cars Vintage, who fought hard with Max Wheeler and found his way past right at the very end. The Averse so fast by Free Wheeler Racing Drive was 8 seconds ahead of Mikey Stewart, run up in the interclass, and the Axis Simsport with Sim Coach Dry ahead of Axis Simsport bandits Ashley Brooks, who completed the podium in the class after their brilliant battle right towards the very checker flag. Andrew Montine took 12th there for Axis Simsport Smurfs, couldn't quite make it a triple podium for the interclass, but still be happy that 4th place, beating Hendrik Zilka to it, and the Old Dudes and Cars and Nisha Drive round off the top 5 in Inter with 30th place overall. Jordan Maymar, 3 club wins in a row. He's becoming the mid-season Martin Kenyon, if you will, and well, how far can he go? Can he make it 4 in a row next time? And 14th place overall. He was not the driver who took that pole position, of course, it was Martin Kenyon, but with difficulty for Kenyon, it came to Maymar. And in Steve Hughes ran off the top 15 there, just ahead of Grant Miller, the run-up in the club class day for Phoenix Racing Red, and 2 seconds behind, having come all the way from the pit lane after he was meant to start towards the very front of the field. Anton Kilo there with a brilliant drive to take 17th place at MK Simsport and the most overtakes made over the day. Jack Barker was the first to finish a lap down in a forward-facing race for Made for Racing ahead of Martin Kenyon, who was the club finisher on the podium, 3rd place on the podium, and the Pistep Racing driver unfortunately losing out with what seemed to be a technical issue with the steering wheel of the car coming out of turn number 7 that sent into the barrier. Matthew Massey, 4th in class and 20th overall for Spectre Racing, and outside the top 20, let's not forget about them. In 21st, it was Nathan Anstis ahead of Luke Sherlock, with Alexander V marking in fighting hard for a 5th place in club and 23rd overall. Harry Sevan, Tom Wheeler, Carl Roy, David Pilcher, Tom Quaddy, Ryan Clark, and Stephen Wilkinson completed your top 30, and it was 2 laps down to Peter Holt, but he never gave up, to be fair, after his open lap incident. He was ahead of Ryan Littlewell, with James Connolly and David Young also 2 laps down to 34th place. 3 laps down, it was Jordan Butler, Oliver Singset, and Jake Muttit, and then we did see the retirements, unfortunately, of John Harley, Steve Hobbs, Daniel Pays, and also, who could forget, Hayden Young, who unfortunately retired right at the start of the race for Send It Racing. But now coming to the class finish positions, because this is where the points are made and paid, and here we see in Pro, firstly, Adam Watson. A huge win for him. Now his 2nd win on the board for Altitude Freedom Esports, and what a critical one there. The win that escaped at Brands Hatch, and well, he's definitely going to become an influencing factor as this season goes on, no doubt about it. Thomas Noakes, a 2nd place finish, now another 2nd place added to his catalogue, and with it, it means that his championship lead will extend. And Tim Probert Send It Racing, in perhaps his best drive of the season so far, another trip to the podium for him, his 2nd third place of the season. The 312 driver in the McLaren will definitely be feeding himself right now. He has got the potential to win a race this season. He's just got to unlock it a little bit more. Harvey Wheeler, where it could have been his first win of the season, say it was not, but the bad luck duck string has finally ended for Wheeler, and well, it was not a podium today, but that 4th place is going to feel like a personal win, and it's no longer that oscillation of if he takes the 2nd place of the race, he's going to have a disaster in the next one, although it could have been a disaster if not for his determination. Fotis Katechos, a 5th place finish there. That will definitely see him lose ground now on championship leader Thomas Noakes, but it does mean his status inside the top 3 is kept alive, although he had to fight hard today in a Corvette that was running out of pace towards the very end. Just now, a 6th place there. That will catapult him up the standings to a degree, ahead of Casper Brotner for Old Dudes and Cars Vintage, and it was Max Wheeler, Anton Kilo, and Nathan Anstis who completed your top 10, with the UKSimRacing Hamilton driver being a lap down. Carl Roy was also a lap down for different circumstances. The Axis Simsport with SimWorks Drive being involved in an alternative instance to that of Anstis being involved in that huge incident on the start-finish straight midway through the race. And Steve Hobbs, unfortunately, your sole retiree for Sim Coach. He'd gone down a couple of laps early on the race, and I think the team had called it a day after a later incident. And then to the interclass we go. And here we do see in the second tier of our class, it's Cy Anstey, your winner for UKSimRacing Hamilton by 31.7 seconds, almost ahead of Mikey Stewart, who in the end had to fight brutally hard to make his way back onto the podium, and in the end to get one up over Ashley Brooks, his sister driver from Axis SimSport Bandits, to make sure that he was the one who finished runner-up, and with it just reasserts himself as in control of the Inter-Championship standings. Brooks then took third. A huge result for the AB Designs driver ahead of Andrew Montaigne, and the Axis Sports Merch driver in the end had to fight his way hard with Hendrik Zilka and found his way past versus the Swiss, with the old dudes and cars Amnesia driver finished off the top 5, 4 seconds ahead of Steve Hughes for UKSimRacing Norris. We did see a lap down for Jack Barker, who fought hard in to make sure he was ahead of Luke Sherlock and Harry Severn, with the Darkwing Racing and Spectre Racing at Feet Murby drivers not too far behind, and Tom Cordy completed the top 10 for Phoenix Racing Rev, another race today punctuated by damage to the car, and unfortunately relegated him outside of the top 5, but just holding on to the top 10. 2 laps down, it was Peter Holt ahead of 3 laps down finisher Jake Muttett, and then we did see from the Phoenix Racing Blue Dry, it was retirements for John Harley, Daniel Pays, and Hayden Young. And into the club class we go, and here we can see in the club class, victory for Jordan Maymar, 3 on the bounce for the Simcast Racing UK driver, and surely he's got to believe right now that this championship is highly possible, and remember, we are in the standard rounds at the moment, not the showdown rounds where there's 50% more points up for grabs. And if Maymar keeps this up, he'll be practically drawing even with the top 3 in the championship before we do get to round number 8. Grant Miller for Phoenix Racing Red, 2nd place, another huge result for him, 7.5 seconds off of the win, but to be fair, a lap has classified ahead of the rest of the field, and he'll know that first win is going to come when it chooses to come, but in the meantime, if he keeps up these podiums, he's definitely well in the championship hunt. Martin Kenyon, it all looks so set for a victory here today. His 4th win of the season slipped out of his grasp, and in the end, a 3rd place finish. Well, to be fair, back to the podium he goes for Piztech Racing. We need to take a look at what happened technically there and hope it doesn't strike again or get it resolved ahead of Suzuka. Matthew Massey for Spectre Racing taking a 4th place finish, one of his best results of the season thus far, and the BMW driver there making sure to stay ahead of Alexander Vingmark, who in turn, through strategy, fell to 6th but jumped back to 5th with a late penalty for Ryan Clark that dropped from 5th to 8th. Tom Wheeler was 6th there for Verso Rapid by Free Wheeler Racing, and David Pilcher for Simcast Racing UK was able to squeeze in between, and then Ryan Clark demoted to 8th place there at the finish line for Spectre Racing. Simcast Racing UK's Stephen Wilkinson completed the run of those a lap down there in 9th place. He was ahead of Ryan Littlewell, who was 2 laps down for a Verso Fast by Free Wheeler Racing. It looked so quick midway through the race, but unfortunately losing out due to a mistake or two, and it was also 2 laps down to James Conley and David Young, with Jordan Butler and Oliver Singset 3 laps down, but all of our club drivers finishing the race, which is great to see. But with that, ladies and gents, that concludes our rundown of the results. But just before we do wrap up this broadcast, of course, it's only fair that we give you a view now of what the standings look like provisionally after 6 rounds of racing. We begin then with the pro class, and here we can see as we come to our pros, Thomas Noakes now with 2 seconds and 2 firsts, and also 9 for the 6th. He's on 440 points. He's opened up his advantage there to the tune of 68 points ahead of Fotis Katechos and the Split Track Esports Drive. Now, knowing that 5th place today, whilst it does not keep him in the hunt with Noakes directly, it keeps him in arm's reach, but the bigger problem he's got is the fact that Harvey Wheeler now has drawn level with him. And the Verso Rapid by Free Wheeler Racing driver, if it had been a podium today, he would be ahead into 2nd, but surely that 2nd place is going to come at some point soon. Carl Royer for Axis and Sports with SimWorks, he sits in 4th place, but still losing some ground to the leaders, but in turn, he's now got the pressure of back-to-back 3rd place finisher Tim Probert for Send It Racing, who's only 10 points behind. There's a further 14 points there to Verso Fast by Free Wheeler Racing's Max Wheeler, who today, unfortunately, could not make it into the top 5, but still enjoying the batting all the same. Alan Watson is closing quickly on the top 6, down to 7th place with 2nd win of the season, 266 points. He's 20 ahead of Nathan Anstis, and it's Thomas Pugh and Archie Williams completing the top 10, with both Pugh and Williams not participating in this race, and therefore not picking up any points. And then we do see in 11th place, Casper Rockner there was 7th place finish, moving him on parity of Archie Williams, and in turn 30 points ahead of Anton Kalo, who did well to recover to that 9th place finish in the pro class. In the interclass, meanwhile, it is Mikey Stewart, who with a 2nd place has resuscitated his championship lead now to the tune of a grand total of 72 points over Hayden Young, whose non-finish today unfortunately does mean now that becomes his drop score for the season, and Tom Cordy will not be too far behind with a 10th place finish. It's 42 points between the two of them, but looking at 4th place meanwhile, Jack Barker now into 4th with Cy Anstey hot on his heels. It is getting very tasty outside the top 3, just as much as it is within the top 3. Jake Muttett falling behind the proud double winner, yet to take a podium this season, or a top 5, and the Phoenix Racing Blue Dry having a bit of a difficult day at the office today, falls to 6th, just ahead of Luke Sherlock, who's 12 points behind, and then we do see Hendrik Silka, Brad Vincent Squibb, and Ashley Brooks completed the top 10, where he made a podium for Ashley Brooks at Axis Sim Sports, moving inside there, just ahead of Andrew Mateen for Axis Sim Sports Smurfs. Pete Holt completes the top 12 of the Interclass, meanwhile, with that 11th place today, not yielding any major points, but still keeping a smile on his face, and then that top 10 is not too far away. And into the club class we go, and Martin King in the third tier of our Drivers' Championships leads now. With podiums, all his counting results thus far, his 5th place from round number 5 will be his drop score. He's on 470 points, but Grant Miller, with a 2nd place finish, closes the gap a little bit, but it is still 48 points that separates the pair. Jordan Maymar on a run of wins, 3 in a row now for the Simcast Racing Team UK outfit. He moves into 3rd ahead of Tom Wheeler, who slips to 4th, and the Verso Rapid by Free Wheeler Racing Drive has Alexander Wingmark never too far behind, with another top 5 to Alexander Wingmark today, earning the right to be in 5th place of Beta Frost. Matthew Massey, 4th place there, a great result for him, and, well, not his season best, but one of his best drives, and the Spectre Racing driver only 2 points ahead of Stephen Wilkinson, who drops to 7th place. John Butler's in 8th there, meanwhile, with one of his weaker results of the season, albeit it does count, because he had a non-finish in round number 2. He's in 8th on 236 points, 20 ahead of Ryan Clark, and then we do see Derek Pilcher round off the top 10 there for Simcast Racing Team UK, ahead of David Young and James Connolly. And into the team championship standings we go, and as we can see, Phoenix Racing Red lead still, 42 points ahead of Verso Rapid by Free Wheeler Racing, and well, right now it does seem as though our lead is a little bit distant from the rest of the field, but everyone else is quickly catching up, because Axis Sim Sports Sim Coach are in 3rd place at the moment, and with only one driver on the grid today in the form of Mikey Shirt to pick up the points, they do slip back a little bit, as Zenit Racing close that gap up to 46 points. 40 behind them is MK Sim Sport, holding on to that 5th currently, knowing that today, if it had gone right for Anton Kalo, they could have leapt their way into the top 3, but it wasn't to be. And then outside the top 5 from 626 points is 620 for Simcast Racing Team UK, with another double haul of points there for the team, particularly of a 3rd win in the row for Jordan Maymar, moving them forward, and Piztech Racing on 518 points, they sit in 7th, but only 12 ahead of Axis Sim Sport with SimWorks, and then it's a further 6 points there to Spectre Racing. UKSimRacing Hamilton finally break the way into the top 10. They found the way on 494 points. We'll have to wait and see if they can hold on to it, but that's how the top 10 of the Team's Championship stands, provisionally after 6 rounds of racing, ladies and gentlemen. But with that, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you've enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now, wanting to know a little bit more about the SimRacing International community, or how you could be on the grid if you've been impressed by the racing so far today, and it's given you a little bit of an itch that you want to scratch and saying, I want to be part of that grid, well, the good news is all we need to do is join our official Discord, invite link available at the very bottom of the screen, as you can see. And when you do join, you have the opportunity to be on the grid at any one of our ongoing series, which do include our Thursday evening GT3 Championship with the Masters and Superstars splits currently in its 12th rendition. Alternatively, if you do like your GT racing, but you like the absence of anti-lock braking systems, we've got you covered with the Grand Twin Endurance Championship, Season 2 of which is occurring on Friday evenings currently, as that charges its way towards the back end of the season. And you've been tuned in today onto your Sunday evening show, albeit, of course, broadcast on Mondays due to broadcast scheduling reasons, and that's the UKSimRacing Sunday Showdown. It's in its 18th season, and indeed, you could not be on a happier grid if you join that or any one of the 3 championships that we do have ongoing. And of course, if you're looking for something a bit more casual, perhaps you're just looking to dip your toes in, perhaps it'll be your first time racing in a league, well, we do have free practice races per week in our practice league, which runs on Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Saturdays, and they'll help you get up to speed. There's never been a better time to get on the grid at SimRacing International. We'd also like to take a moment to say a big thank you to our series and league sponsors, who do include CarMate, Modern Technology, the GP2 Group, and we'd also like to say a big thank you to Motorsport UK's esports division for recognising us here at SimRacing International as a recommended community. We're very grateful for that recognition, and long may it continue throughout 2026 and beyond. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for us to look ahead to next time, and in round number 7 of 10, we'll be making our way back to Japan for the Suzuka Grand Prix circuit. And when we head to the Mie Prefecture of Japan, what exactly will we see? Well, our racing will occur on Sunday the 17th of May 2026, but we'll bring it to you as if it were live on Monday the 18th of May, and it will be the concluding round for what will be our standard rounds before we do get into the showdown rounds of rounds 8, 9 and 10. So the final set of standard points are up for grabs, and going into Suzuka, it seems like in the Pro Championship, Thomas Noakes is holding a comfortable lead at the moment, that whilst the wins are not necessarily coming to him, the podiums definitely are, and right now can anybody slow him down? Meanwhile, in the Interclass. It has been now back-to-back wins for Sai Anthony, but there's still a degree of control at the very top of the field being exhibited by none other than Mikey Stewart, with a podium of his own today. And as for the club class, well, we've seen that Martin Kenyon, 5 podiums in the 5 rounds that count, but 3 wins back-to-back now for Jordan Maymar, and in between the two of them, Grant Miller, who seems to be constantly on the podium but yet to take a win. Could it all change for Grant Miller next time out at Suzuka? Could we see the club class turn upside down? Could we see a change in the team championship as well? Well, that's what we'll find out in a week's time. But until then, we've been SimRacing International. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh. And until next time, as always, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.